Plus 2 is proud to bring you the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club.
This week on the Pokercast, Mason Malmuth, mailbag, voicemails, and news. Now here they are. These are not the poker players you're looking for. Adam and Terrence.
Welcome to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. I'm your host, Dave Schwartz, here in rainy Vancouver, along with Roscoe P. Coltrane. And Terrence, joining us from Bangkok, Thailand. Terrence, welcome to the show, sir.
An undisclosed location in Thailand currently, but I was in Bangkok. It is not rainy here. I hear you guys were getting snowed on, so that made my girlfriend very happy that we're just in the tropics. I know it's like 32. She's fist pumping right now. You guys can see this, but it's about 32 degrees. I never like to be too specific about where I am when I travel. You know, it's all security. But I'm at a location where I'm soaking up some sun, eating some coconuts, training some Thai boxing, and yeah, life is hard right now.
You're training boxing. You should be like, come at me, bro.
Yeah, let's
go.
Come
find where I'm at.
Yeah.
Come box me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just don't bring any weapons.
Who knows? Maybe I'm more worried about getting pickpocketed than robbed.
There you go. The intro, of course, is the classic Star Wars reference. The entire world was Star Wars crazy this week. Myself, I've been watching the first 6 movies with my kids to get them caught up. They're 10 and 12. It was interesting because...
So your 10 and your 12-year-old sat through 6 consecutive movies? Yeah. Like you guys just marathoned?
No. Sorry, in different nights. Like in the last 2 weeks, we snuck them in one night here, one night there. But it's interesting how, like, obviously people grow up and they're 10 and 12, so they didn't grow up with it like we did. Old enough to have been in the theater when the very first one came out and remember it fondly. So, but watching them and enjoy. They've seen maybe 1 or 2 of the 6, but they hadn't seen all of them. And when I hadn't been back to watch episode 1, 2, 3, of course, the prequels, in quite some time. And the first 3, of course, 4, 5, and 6, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, all classic movies. A lot of people will say that one's better than the other, whatever. But I think in context of cinematic history, they're great movies. Then you get to the prequels and it's just like, oh my god, these really were terrible.
Right. So my question to you is, I'm not a big Star Wars guy.
Okay.
I mean, I've watched a bunch of them, but I know that the prequels were from this generation,
sure,
the last kind of 15 years or so. Did you watch them in chronological order of release, or did you watch them in how the story unfolded order?
So there's a lot of discussion about that, right? Because screwing up the whole my father or whatever.
What the Schwartz plan of attack was.
I wasn't sure what to do, so I asked on Twitter, and people gave me different answers. I ended up going in chronological order: 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So.
The order in which they were produced and made.
Yeah, and released.
Okay.
Which I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but my daughter, who's 12, got sick of them. I think she walked out through in episode 1. She just it was episode 2. Sorry, she got completely bored.
So she was happy with all of the old ones.
And the first one, the first prequel, and then when we watched the second prequel, it was all it's all like trade routes and Senate hearings, and it's just
the first prequel is that's not the Jar Jar Binks one, is it? That's the one everybody hates. I know that.
Yeah. No, that's the second one.
Oh, that's the second one.
Yeah.
The first prequel is the one that's generally considered to be good, right?
Right. The pod racers with Anakin, etc. Yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure.
That's the one that people like.
Yeah.
Okay. So she hated the one that everybody else hates.
Right, and then she didn't even bother watching episode 3, but she enjoyed. So then we cut to this week. I took them all to the movie, and they both enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There were some great fist pumping type moments, but there was some disappointment in some of the storyline or whatever. I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody. But
does it rank better than the other prequels?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'd put it. I'd put it probably 4th. After the first 3 movies for me is where I would put it.
What did the kids think of like this sort of? I mean, I know that a lot of kids when they watch movies from like the 70s or even like the 80s now, like the dialogue and the sort of it's a little more hokey. It's not as nuanced in a way. Like I feel like the younger generation like often doesn't like they think like, oh, nobody talks like that or something like that. Movies now feel a little bit more realistic. Did they have any beefs with that, or they just ate it up?
No, they ate it up, and I think when you set something in that kind of environment where it's not of this world, you get away with a lot, right? Like, there's a lot of the way that people talk, and you're on a Death Star or whatever. You're on a plane. You're not a plane. You're on a ship. So, you get away with a bunch of that stuff, I think.
Fair enough.
But so you haven't seen it, I guess. Is it in Thailand?
It is in Thailand. It released. It was in Bangkok. I walked through a shopping mall, and like I had to like run a gauntlet of like Star Wars merchandise to even get to like the place I was trying to go to. So it's just as big here. We saw the posters for it in Hong Kong before we left. That like I think it might have been a timed worldwide release. A lot of Hollywood movies like you get them in Southeast Asia like 6 months after they come out in North America. But I think this one's so big they just kind of nailed it, because I also think that like if a movie is this big, which it was the biggest opening weekend in movie history, right, or whatever. Yeah. I think when a movie's that big, they're always worried about like the black market getting a hold of it, right? And especially places like Southeast Asia. So if you released it in New York City, that DVD, that USB cable is going to be on a torrent site in Malaysia in like 4 hours.
Right.
So they probably, if they want to be able to make the money off of that before the pirates get hold of them. I feel like I'm not a MPAA exec or anything like that, but that's my guess.
Roscoe, no interest in Star Wars?
Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm just not about to try and.
I'll watch it too. So, but how
we
much
get through the lines? Yeah.
How important is it to actually like grasp the prequels? Because I sort of watched some of them, and I watched like I'm a fairly casual Star Wars fan. I understand like the universe, but like I'm not going to sit through the 6 movies before this to be able to understand it.
So you've never seen a Star Wars movie?
No, I have. But what I'm saying is it's not fresh in my memory. I'm not like super hardcore. I've seen some of them. I watched the second prequel, and I think I watched the first prequel, and I've watched one of the old ones. Like I can't remember, but I can't remember like the details of who's everybody and what everybody's relationship to everybody is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think you need that. I there's some moments that are going to be a lot better for you in the new movie if you have a grasp of everything. But if you're like 99% of the people, you kind of get lost with all the different, tribes of people and different planets and systems.
This guy's sister and mother and cousin, and this person's mentor. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, you don't need to know all that stuff. I think there's a couple of moments that if you've actually seen, A New Hope or any of the original movies, that you're going to just kind of fist bump. So. But other than that, I don't.
You'll get more out of it.
You get a shade more out of it for sure. Yeah. So we mentioned you're in Bangkok. I understand you.
Yeah, I was in Bangkok last week. Happened to run into a certain World Series bracelet winner and brother of yours.
Mr. Idema.
So. Yes, Mr. Idema was also in Bangkok. We had a quick chat. I'd heard he was going there. So we made plans to meet up, and Bangkok is a nutso city in terms of like traffic. Like it's not like India crazy, but it's really it's so much bigger and more modern of a city than I remember it. But the traffic is like the most. It's just the most horrendous thing. But the cool thing is they have Uber, so I was able to get from one place to another with Uber. But Uber's was like probably the most amusing. Like every trip I had with Uber, I have like a hilarious story. First of all, it's like dirt cheap. I mean,
is that
you're in a third world country, stuff's expensive. So stuff is inexpensive rather. But I took a trip to the Muay Thai gym that I wanted to train at. And on Google Maps, it said it was going to be like 25 minutes. It ended up being like 50 minutes, so like double that. Wasn't very far. Like it was maybe 3 miles, 5 miles.
Yeah.
And the fare was like $4.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was in a car for like the better part of an hour, and I paid $4, and we're just stuck in traffic like the entire time. Like just we're inching. Like people like complain about LA traffic. Like it was ridiculous. Like I literally could have walked there faster. Like, and I probably should have, but it was great. And that car was my favorite too. I tweeted that like it picked me up and it had a racing stripe on it. It's like a Toyota Tercel or whatever the new one is, and it's got like a racing stripe on it. And we never made it out of second gear. The the other great Uber story was me and Dan and Dan's girlfriend and my girlfriend are all coming back from the big huge. Oh, they have a shopping mart there, it's like a flea market, I guess. I don't know if you call it something like that.
Okay.
It is the size of 24 football fields.
What?
It's 24 football fields of shopping.
Oh my
So
God.
me and Dan, we stuck it out for an hour, and then the girls aren't done shopping because it's 24 football fields. Like, fuck this, we're getting foot massages.
Nice.
And we just let the girls run for like an hour, buying up $4
Crap.
blouses and pants and
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, we'll be here, but
And the longer
we're taking the Uber
yeah.
back.
Sorry, the longer
it's-
you take
it's like-
shopping, the more massaging I'm getting of my feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have too much foot massage,
No,
right?
yeah.
Like regular massage, like you could probably get too much of that. Like you start getting sore,
Yeah.
might get some muscle inflammation, but it's hard to get too much foot massage.
Indeed.
Anyway, yeah, we spend another hour in another Uber getting back to the hotel because traffic is terrible, even though it's a Saturday. And like the guy is just kind of talking through Dan's girlfriend, who speaks Thai, obviously, because she's Thai, and just talking about how like nothing against Muslims, but they do keep doing bad things and dominating the religious scene. And there's all the Hindus and all the Buddhists are getting pushed out of Thailand because all the Muslims. So that was a fun experience
Oh,
too.
my God.
So,
Politics
yeah,
with it. Hey, we never got to talk about the UFC that you were excited for.
Oh,
last
yeah,
week.
right. Okay, so here's the thing about that. I was all excited because you pumped me up saying you're going to be watching UFC. I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be a great show. And I spent some time trying to find the fight wherever it was, and it lasted like no time at all.
Okay, well, I also, if you were paying attention, I also did say that you should watch the main card, not just like the main event.
Right.
Right. So like the fight before it, Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman put on a fantastic.
Yeah,
back
that
and
was pretty
forth.
crazy.
That was a great fight. Like, guys got tired. Guys, it was a nice little comeback. Weidman won the first round. Rockhold took him down and beat him up in the second round. There's a lot of good stuff on there. But yeah, I was very disappointed by that main event too, because I've been a big Jose Aldo fan for a long time. He's like a legend. He's one of the guys that, like, when I started training, I was like, oh man, that guy is mind blowing. And yeah, he got starched in 13 seconds, leaning his head forward on a left hook and getting countered.
It's funny,
that's the fight game.
because like I've seen this a couple times now in UFC where I've seen highlights or a fight that doesn't go very long or whatever, but the knockout isn't never, like, you don't think of classic knockouts in boxing, right? Or you think of that when you think about knockout, right? Like a guy catching his face like flush, and the guy just getting a right hook right to the nose, right? And guys just legs giving out. But that knockout, it seems like he just kind of they're almost glancing blows. I understand they hurt like hell, because
it's the small gloves. I mean, like, the thing is that MMA gloves are basically like the best way to describe MMA gloves, if somebody doesn't know, is like, you ever see like those gloves that people lift weights with, or that people like ride motorcycles with. There's very little padding on them. They weigh 4 ounces in total.
Right.
And when you're talking about boxing gloves, like, they're 10 ounces, 12 ounces. And the other thing is, I think boxers just have better defense, and they're a little bit more respectful of each other's power.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, people don't realize what getting hit by one of those little gloves is like. And Aldo just made a huge mistake. He just leaned forward. You could see it on the slow-mo replays, leaning forward with his face. All the things that you're not supposed to do. All the things that a really technical striker like him isn't supposed to do. And that's fighting. Like, you just make one mistake and it's done.
It shows you that no fight is ever over. Like, you watch fight and a couple of rounds, the guy's just dominating or whatever. It's not over, because all you got to do is
take
clam
very much
one of
force
those.
to like turn a human being's life out. It really doesn't take that much.
Yeah.
So, like, you think you have to hit someone with a bat, and you really don't. You just got to touch them in the right place.
Do you think there's going to be a big rematch of those two?
Yeah, I mean, Conor McGregor's a huge guy for 145 pounds. Like, he's actually like about 175 pounds. So he's been talking about moving up a division and trying to claim the 155-pound title too. And so I think basically everybody wants to fight him because he makes you rich if you fight him. Like that's the thing. Like they could put him up against the scrubbiest of scrubs, and that scrub is still going to make a mill ball, just because he's going to headline the card with him.
Wow.
So I mean, he gets to kind of do whatever he wants now, which is it's kind of becoming like the Mayweather thing, where for Mayweather decided what Mayweather fought. It wasn't. And all of his opponents were irrelevant. All of the promoters were irrelevant. It was just like Floyd says, like, I'm fighting this guy. Okay, well, we'll make it happen. I'm fighting this weekend. Okay, I'm fighting in this arena. I'm fighting in this size of the ring, and we're going to be using this gloves. And like, okay, that's fine because you make all the money and you get to call the shots. Yeah. So I think Conor McGregor's on his way to approaching that sort of level, which is, in some ways bad for the sport, but, in other ways it's kind of cool to see, some of the balance swing between the power. Like everybody's always said, like, oh, the UFC is too powerful, and now some of the power swing is towards a fighter. So
there was another crazy fight on that card. The guy, I don't even remember his name, but he was like the jiu-jitsu master. Where the at the end of the fight, I think the punches were like 150-8.
Yes, it was Damian Maia. Yeah, Damian Maia. And he's fighting another good great jiu-jitsu guy.
It was the most insane beatdown. He just got punched. He was just on his back, punching him in the head for like 15 minutes.
So this media guy, Adam will appreciate this. Like there's a media guy named Jordan Brino I listen to, and he's always called Damian Maia the Lady Bing Trophy winner of MMA.
Oh, okay.
Because he's always said that, like, I want to beat guys up without hurting them. Like,
does anybody get that reference? There's nobody. 5% of the audience that he has gets that reference.
Yeah, I know. That's funny. He's Lady Bing. So I said he's actually just won the plus-minus trophy too.
Right.
This is great because it's like 158-3. I mean, there's a stat in his last two fights, 22 minutes of fighting time. He's been hit like 9 times or something.
Crazy. I love all the people on Twitter too. They're all defending how great of a fight that Aldo McGregor fight is. Oh, it's a great fight. Like, what are you talking about? It lasted 12 seconds. It's not a great fight.
It was a great knockout. It was a great performance. It was not a good fight. It was a very disappointing fight.
20 minutes of walk-ins.
I wanted like 3 rounds of war.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
did you happen to see the biggest slow roll in maybe television history the other night?
No.
You didn't see this? Oh my God. Okay, so there's the Miss Universe pageant was held in Las Vegas.
Oh,
this year.
yes. Okay, I read about it.
Steve Harvey.
I'm aware of it, so go for it.
I have no idea why Steve Harvey is hosting the Miss Universe to begin with.
Can I just say I don't know who Steve Harvey is before last night?
You didn't? No, you've never seen Steve Harvey before? Okay. So
I don't. Yeah, now I know who he is. He's the guy who screwed up the Miss America
game show host.
Yeah, he's a game show host. I'm sure most people have seen it, but for those that haven't, he's announcing the winner of Miss Universe, and for some reason he pulls the winner, the card that has the winner on it, and he reads the runner-up as the winner. So I think it's Miss Columbia. She gets the crown. She's walking around for a little bit. Miss Philippines, who actually won, is kind of standing off in the distance as the runner-up, getting out of her way. And then Steve the camera comes back to him and he goes, "There's been a mistake." Like a minute ago.
There's been a mistake, by which I mean I made a mistake.
I made a mistake. Yeah, I screwed it up. And ends up reading the card correctly, and Miss Philippines won. And you feel so bad for this. I mean, obviously pageants are ridiculous and dumb, but
Yeah, but it's still like even regardless of what you think of beauty pageants,
she spent her life.
This woman has worked her entire life
exactly
for this moment or whatever.
You just feel so bad for this woman.
How does that happen? You would think there's just like one big card that says runner up, Miss Columbia, champion, or whatever it is, Miss Universe.
Yeah.
Miss
Harvey's
like there should really be like 6 words on this card, right?
He's clearly not paying attention, right? I mean, he's just not doing his job. He's not.
Does he do drugs? Like, is that
I don't know. Who knows?
Well, it was a little bit confusing wording. It said second runner up, first runner up, and then on the other side of the card it said Miss Universe is.
Okay,
but,
so that's like.
I mean, yeah, I guess you probably should have got that down.
It is a weird thing because they always announce. I mean, they always announce the first runner-up, and then you figure out by implication who the actual champion is, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know of any other thing.
It's weird how it does that.
Where that happens, right? It's like when there's a decision. We're just talking about like MMA. We don't go second place in this fight goes to Jose Aldo.
Right.
And then we go, that means Conor McGregor won the title.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's
there's not even an opportunity to slow roll somebody.
I dislike Steve Harvey a lot, but so I enjoyed that, except for the fact that I felt bad for Miss Columbia.
Right. I mean,
what a drama.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's really like the classic, you had one job.
Exactly. You had to read one word. Last thing before we get to some In Case You Missed It stuff.
We are very unprofessional.
Is Serial. We talked about the new season. A couple of episodes are out now. Terrence, have you had a chance to listen to the first or second? No.
I'm just going to wait till all, because I couldn't stand last year.
Week to week.
For the next week and refresh. Oh, I heard it's coming out Wednesday. I'm just going to wait for it all. I decided, just wait till I'm on like a 17-hour plane ride and just nail it through.
I won't talk much about it, other than the fact that
we don't have to do it.
I couldn't get into it. You
can't get into it?
Yeah, it was like I was listening to the one and I was struggled. I changed to listen to something else, went back to it, and it was just not as.
I'm liking it.
You liking it? Yeah,
I think it's good.
All right.
It would be better to listen to it all at once, though.
Hopefully,
that's what I did with the first one.
Catches my attention a little bit better coming up.
I feel like Serial's still the kind of thing that when you get spoiled, you're still going to enjoy it, right? It's we're going to find out. About
yeah.
it,
I mean,
I
don't
you're
think
still going to enjoy it. Like even if you're the first person, even if right now listening to us talk about it is the first time you've heard of Serial, you could go back and listen to season 1 and enjoy it.
I don't think it's possible to spoil you yet on season 2. I mean, there's only been 2 or 3.
That's also true,
episodes,
right?
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
it's a much different type of case too.
How did he miss the open goal? 6x4, and he comes up 0. Oh no!
Oh yes, he missed it.
He's missed it! How on earth did he miss that?
In case you missed it, Alex Millar, Canu 7 on PokerStars. He, the member of Team PokerStars Online for quite some time. He has quit PokerStars over the Supernova Elite reduction for 2016. I'll read from his quote on Twitter. I'd like to apologize to the players for my complete failure to be able to help in any way with the recent PokerStars VIP changes. With Daniel Negreanu eventually failing as well, I no longer feel I can represent the company and have now left Team Pro Online. Thanks for the messages of support. I would reply individually, but I don't want to act like this is a celebration when it's really a failure. He also posted in the thread on 2+2 that his contract was coming up and Stars wanted him to come back for another year, and he declined based on his disagreement over what's going on with the Supernova Elite for 2016. You got to be impressed with the guy, taking a stand on what he believes to be right, team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is something that probably crossed the mind of many of the team pros or team online or whatever it is. And some people aren't going to have a problem with it, and everybody gets to sort of use your moral judgment as to, it goes to the heart of sort of what is a representation? What does a sponsorship mean? Does it mean like, oh, they pay me and I, say good things and this is just what I do when I go out in public. I wear the patch and I do the interviews and I just try to be a good person. Or is it more fundamental than that? Does it like, am I a part of this company? Do I have to believe in everything I stand for? I mean, we have to think about, like, in real world, there's a lot of people out there who endorse products they don't use, they don't particularly care about at all, and nobody has a problem with it. If the Major League Baseball MVP goes out and does a cereal ad, or sponsors Pepsi, or does a Pepsi ad,
drinks,
do we expect this person to drink Pepsi exclusive, like to say like, oh, Pepsi's better than Coke, and the values of the Pepsi Cola Corporation are really a part of my values? Or do we just say, no, this dude is wealthy and rich and he got that way by the fact that he's willing to put his face on a Pepsi can? Like, we don't, nobody ever says that this guy like needs to have at his heart the core values. But when a person, like Kanu 7 comes out and says like, hey, I'm not okay with my image or me representing the site based on what they've what I think that they've done to the poker community, and I think they've caused harm to the poker community, then I think that should be stepped on and awarded. I don't think everybody has to do that, but I think we have to acknowledge that as an act of integrity.
Indeed. I know a lot of people, and some people have said to us, are you going to continue with PokerStars? And I look at I don't look at us like, first of all, we're not Team Online or Team Pros or anything like that. We're able to say whatever we like to say on this show and talk about all the different issues without any encumbrances. And so long as that's the case, I don't feel that there's any need to do that.
Right, and I think that's the line that for me, and I think for you as well, that we sort of do. This show is sponsored by the PokerStars VIP Club, and we're okay with that specifically because they don't tell us what to say or how to say it and anything like that. We're expected to treat them fairly and treat all of our guests fairly, and that's what we're okay with. Like, we both enjoy doing the show. We appreciate very much the support that the PokerStars, the VIP Club, gives to us to keep the show running and on the air and into your smartphones every week. And we do this because we like it.
Right. How else would you fall asleep if we didn't do this?
Yeah, exactly. as an alarming number of listeners have said to us in the past, like, we listen to you before we go to bed.
In case you missed it, robotic dealers are coming to U.S.-based casinos.
Yes, it's Judgment Day.
It is, really.
The machines are taking over.
A company called Paradise Entertainment from Hong Kong are preparing to introduce a human-looking robot to deal blackjack and other casino games in North America. The prototype made its debut at a gaming show in Macau last month.
Shit, I was in Macau last month.
You could have gone and see the debut.
Gone to see to check out a robot dealer. I wish I had got the invite to that.
They're going to be expensive, right? I mean, there's no way these things are cheap. Like, imagine how detailed this robot's going to have to be to deal blackjack without, the idea is you're taking away some cost for a casino. So it's not like you're going to have somebody there all the time, a real person, a pit boss, whatever, watching over every robot. Like, this robot has to run a game and all the different things that happen during a blackjack game. It's got to be pretty... It's amazing to me that we can
really sophisticated technology. Like, I mean, does it interpret hand signals, or do you have to like press a button to hit or stand?
It has to do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It can't be that intelligent, like,
Oh, I know. And people, if it doesn't do a lot of the things that a normal human dealer are going to do, right? People just walk to the human dealer table. So they're not going to be very effective if they don't do a lot of the things that humans can do.
I'm sure there's already some advantage player like looking for some way to like exploit some loophole in the right, like if you stack your chips this way, like it thinks your bet is $10 more than it is, and you can achieve like a 1% edge over time. Something like that.
Or there's a programmer who's programming these robots who programs in a peak. It lifts their card up too high or something. So so people can look at it. But
awesome.
So North America, in other places, Europe as well, it's costs a great deal of money for people or for a casino to employ people to do this job. So I can imagine it's something that
I think dealers in Australia make like $25 an hour.
Yeah, and versus dealers in Asia where labor is quite cheap. So I'm not sure that it's going to be
China
take off there or not, but maybe they'll demand it just because it's going to be kind of cool to play against a robot when you're playing blackjack. And
this is the kind of thing that I think in the past people would have said, like, oh, it'll never replace human dealer, it'll never replace like the human experience, but like robots are just replacing us all the time.
And do people care about human people in casinos sit and stare at slot machines all day? Like, that's what they enjoy.
Yeah,
being away from humans,
right.
Staring at a screen. Like, it's not going to deter a lot of people, I think. I mean, I don't know, maybe
sometimes dealers are fun.
Oh, for sure, and they could maybe program.
They better make this thing waterproof. People are going to throw drinks at it.
The thing. Yeah, you could get away with stuff, right? Upgrades include facial recognition and greeting players by names and speak in many different languages. So that'd be pretty cool.
That's very Minority Report.
Yeah, right, exactly. In case you missed it, Jamie Staples is now a member of Team Online. He was a friend of PokerStars. He gets the promotion after all the recent success he's had driving traffic to his Twitch channel, going deep in lots of MTTs. Pretty cool story. Jamie has, found a niche, found a new media to turn into something for himself. And
he's Canadian.
He is Canadian from living in Calgary now, and I read a blog about it. He's going to be moving abroad after the World Series next year. I think he's chosen Prague to move to, which
you can come to our website and you can watch some of these poker players do their Twitch stuff.
That's him. He'll be doing his Twitch stuff from Prague, which which will be a lot of fun for him. But
I wonder if
congrats.
he
to you.
plans to play. The I guess the primary reason to move to like base yourself in Europe would be to play EPTs. I mean, that's why most of the people who I think live in Europe. Most North Americans who choose to live in Europe, tend to play like EPTs and stuff.
'Cause
Or
you're
maybe
close,
it's just
yeah.
better for the schedule playing at PokerStars. I'm not really sure, but it's a long way from Medicine Hat, that's for sure.
It is indeed. So is Calgary. Well, not really in distance, but
Why would you put Medicine in a hat?
he's from the Hat. I believe he's from the
he's
Hat.
from Lethbridge.
Oh, is he from Lethbridge?
Oh, Lethbridge. Sorry.
Okay, not far. Pretty
Messed
close.
up my small Alberta cities.
Small Alberta towns for 100, Alex. In case you missed it, the World Poker Tour Alpha 8 was held in Las Vegas this week. 100K buy-in. Had 45 players, and your winner was Germany's Fedor Holtz, Crown-Up guy. He took a huge chip lead into the final table and ended up closing the deal. Daniel Negreanu finished in third. Ankush how do you pronounce Ankush's last name? Mandavia. Mandavia. Finishes in fifth. I should ask MJ. He's the one that butchered names all the time.
Is fifth the min cash? When
No, I think it was like
players?
seventh or eighth. I want to say.
Oh, okay.
They paid it for. It was pretty flat up until I think he won 1.6 million. But he also won. This is Crown Up guy. He also won a super expensive watch and a solid gold Mastercard with 10,
so good.
10K credit on it and executive lifestyle benefits. I think it was like a butler.
Didn't we talk about that on the show
We
a couple
did.
weeks ago?
Yeah.
Mastercard, and now somebody actually won one.
I could just see Fedor sitting there like with a butler too. It fits.
Yeah, he's not really like that sort of dude from sort of my personal interaction, but the needs the local errands or whatever that you get. Like I want 74 toothbrushes sent to my house, and
Exactly.
they all have to be blue and soft bristles or something.
There's also a woman who cashed in this super
came
high
seventh
roller.
or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she came in sixth. Kathy Len.
Yeah.
She's on the Forbes list. She's like
Forbes
30,
500?
39th or something, most richest woman in America.
Wow.
She started
Fedor
oil.
not the only one with a solid gold Mastercard. in
Yeah,
that.
Right.
Yeah, she started like an oil wholesaling business. I've never heard of her before, but I guess she's got
Oil wholesale isn't all oil sales like wholesaling?
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Wow, I wish we had the Ralph Furley oil drop from Three's Company.
I wish we had the penetrating the female demographic drop.
Oh yeah, that'd be good too. In case you missed it, PokerStars Shark Cage Season 2 finale was televised last week. Last year, of course, Griffin Banger took down the million in the title, Season 1. This year, the final six were Andre Akari, Jen Shahadi, Antonio Maria Ho, Phil Ivey, and Daniel Negreanu.
What about Ivy?
It's got a shot clock tee. Have you watched much of the Shark Cage?
I have not.
It's actually pretty good television. It's pretty good poker television. I gotta be honest.
I only get to see it when a beauty pageant winner bluffs out a
that's right.
known player. Yeah.
The Miss what was it, Miss Norway?
It's my primary exposure.
Yeah. It's I enjoyed the heck out of it, to be honest. The final table was the only one I watched of it, but it does have a shot clock. I love that part of it that adds to the game, and they have like value bets and bluffs, and you got to go in the cage if you get it wrong.
Shot clocks and time buttons, right?
Yeah. So it's you're automatically on the clock every hand. So
right.
There's no but
you get I think you get time extension buttons.
You have you can add once. I think I don't know how often it is, but 30 seconds or something when you're making a big decision. But still, even when you add the 30, it's like a minute total to make
still
a
turbo
decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I want to ask you about this hand though, and it's interesting. They are down to three-handed, and Daniel Negreanu, Phil Ivey, and Maria Ho are left. And Daniel limps on the button, three-handed. Phil calls in the small blind, and Maria checks her option in the big blind. Daniel has the 7-5 off. The flop is Queen 6-4. Phil bets, Maria folds, and Daniel flat calls with his open-ender. The turn is a 7. Phil checks, Daniel bets, and Phil Ivey raises, Daniel calls. So I wanted to ask you first about that street. That's an interesting street there. Daniel bets thinking Phil bet out with a 6. Now I turned a 7, so I turn second pair. Phil's not likely going to check like Queen 10 or something in the hand like that because there was a flush draw on the flop as well. What do you think of that?
I'm not sure that's the logic. Like, I'm not sure the logic is like he has a 6 and I have a 7, so I'm better. Because I think you would still.
You don't think that's a value bet? You think that's a bluff on the turn?
No. I just don't think that's the logic. I think he bets because he thinks there's a good chance he's ahead.
Yeah,
but I think
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that Daniel might do. Like, he might actually try to turn a 7 into a bluff on the river if he, if he bricks off and it's some kind of scary card for him. And I personally wouldn't bet there myself because I feel like my hand wouldn't want to get raised. Having been raised, I would still call. But I don't think his logic is quite that. And I would say that Phil could check a queen sometimes, but he probably won't check raise a queen. He'll probably check call a queen, but he might just lead with a queen more likely. I think so.
Yeah.
I agree with you, I guess, on that part.
Yeah. So Phil checks, Daniel bets, Phil raises, Daniel calls. This is Queen 6-4 flop, 7 turn. Daniel again has the 7-5 off.
Second pair and an open ender.
The river comes another 7, and Daniel of course makes 3 sevens. It's a good card, but a flush. It also brings the front door flush as well, and Phil bets now. And Daniel thinks for a while, talks it through. You have to have a flush draw, that kind of thing. And he finally flat calls. And Phil says, without turning his hand over, says ace queen. He actually has jack 8 off. And Daniel shows the winner, and Phil mucks face down. And I mean, he's playing against his buddy. He knows Daniel's not going to throw his hand away, etc. But it was serious. Like, how Phil is, though. You can't tell if he's being serious or joking. But
right.
he does
Which
say
is why when he's joking, it's the best.
Right.
Because he's still Phil Ivey. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is it an angle? It's weird, right? What if Daniel throws his hand away?
That in the 1,000,000 to 1 chance that Daniel just snap mucks his hand, that he probably would have, especially in a televised tournament.
Right. What happens if Daniel
probably
throws
would
his
have
hand
like,
away?
no, I actually have jack high.
Yeah.
But it doesn't it's sort of more like you said. I think Phil knows Daniel well enough that he can get away with doing something silly like that, where where there's pretty much a 0% chance that Daniel's just gonna snap muck his hand.
Yeah, and Daniel almost is never calling with a hand that is good against ace queen, I guess. Or sorry, is losing to ace queen, right? I mean, I guess that's what Phil's thinking.
I don't know, but maybe I don't know.
So he's got to hit a parlay of Daniel's hand not being able to be
a queen, like all you could do is have a queen. All you could do is have a king queen,
and then muck.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Maybe Phil's just on another level with this stuff, and maybe you're right.
Right.
Maybe your analysis is right. Is that if Phil thinks that Daniel never has king queen or queen jack or queen 10 or queen 9, then he can just say ace queen, and it doesn't really matter what Daniel has. How's that for blowing your mind?
Well, and I think also the way Daniel was talking it through when the bet was out there. Daniel's talking it through I've got to be good. I mean, some of the stuff he says makes it obvious that ace queen's no good. Right. And then
maybe Daniel river to flush, maybe he turned it straight, something bizarre like that. Yeah.
They said they never played head up for a poker title before. They ended up getting heads up. Maria kind of finished in third. They ended up getting heads up, and they were saying this has never happened before, which I kind of went, wow, well, crazy. Considering they play a lot of these small field events that they'd never got heads up before. Sorry, I don't want to tell people. Daniel and so they get heads up. Daniel ends up taking it down, but there's this great moment where it's at it's in the EPT Grand Final.
I'm not Daniel Lugano.
It's at the EPT Grand Final in Europe. So they send it's stars, right? It's a stars event televised, but there's not a lot of people around. So when it's over, it's sort of anticlimactic almost. Like there's no crowd to go, like sometimes you see on televised poker.
Right. Yeah.
Or his buddies don't come jumping around him and jumping up and down like we've just seen at the World Series of Poker main event. And they sent this confetti cannon goes off right above Phil and Daniel. And Phil's already bummed out. He's just, standing there, whatever. And all of a sudden he gets rained on in confetti. in this super quiet environment, and it's hilarious because
now I do have to watch this.
It's just raining down.
I feel like that itself is like like a Reddit GIF.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
Or like a 2+2 GIF. Like we just feel like Phil being showered with confetti, like
for finishing second. You can just see
it's going to be a meme now.
Oh, you can see the disdain. It's beautiful. But yeah, like I was saying, I think it was the best poker I've seen on TV.
I'm going to Google it right now. It might already be out there. If it's like Phil, I'm going to Google Phil Ivey confetti and see if somebody's already made this. No, nobody's on that yet. But somebody will be on that soon. I'm sure of it.
So good. EPT Prague. In case you missed it, EPT Prague is in the books. We mentioned last week Steve O'Dwyer won the $50,000 high roller. There was also a one-day €25,000 high roller that was won by Rainer Kempe. 15 hours to complete the one-day event, 80 entries. That's brutal.
Yikes.
Yeah,
Yikes. A 15-hour one-day event that shouldn't happen.
No. Well, it's one. I mean, yeah, I guess. 80 entries.
I mean, it doesn't matter what time you start the day. Like
it's going to be late
because if you that's the thing. They're not going to start the tournament like 9 a.m.
No.
And have it run till midnight. Like that's not going to happen. So more likely it was like a 12 or a 1 or a 2 p.m. start, and it just went into sunrise. Yeah, that's ruling.
Steve,
that much.
What's that? Say that again. Sorry.
Especially for that much money. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Steve O'Dwyer min cashes the one-day event as well. Rainer beats Frenchman Jean-Noël Thorel to take down the $540,000 for the one-day event. The third high roller, they have 3 high rollers at EPT Prague, was a 10K Euro buy-in, won by Kenneth Smaron. Daniel Jungleman Cates ends up in 6th. Vanessa Selps in 8th. On to the main event, 1,044 entrants into the main event. I thought that was a good number for Prague. That's a lot of poker players. Hossein Ensan ends up taking down the title along with €750,000. The year of the old guy continues as Hossein is 51-year-old German, so he's not one of the young whippersnappers. He's also following up on the main event of the World Series where 2 guys ended up making the deep run that we've talked much about. He's his third final table appearance in the last year and a half at EPTs. He's only been playing tournament poker for 2 years. Pretty impressive that he's made 3 final tables and also taken one down. He did a deal head up with Russian Gleb Tremzin, who has 3 World Championship of Online Poker titles. So a talented player ends up coming in second as well. I don't know if you saw this, T. Half the table wore T-shirts that said "We're against the changes in the PokerStars VIP program."
No, I did not see that, and that is. Yeah, that's a statement. I mean, that's a statement for sure.
Sorry, that wasn't the main event. That was the high roller. And they had, so they had these T-shirts, and it had a cracked PokerStars Spade logo on them. There's this. Remember, we had the issue with T-shirts a year ago when Dan Coleman and Olivier Bousquet, ended up wearing the Palestine shirts. And then I think at the time the EPT said something along the lines of, "We will regulate what people wear if we don't agree with it," but they didn't stop them from wearing these T-shirts. I think they were, in good taste, etc. So they didn't really have cause to. But impressive that that happened.
Yeah, on kind of both sides. It's good players decided to go out and make a stand of this. Good on the EPT for kind of, because they, nobody would have been shocked at all if the EPT was like, no, you guys are not going to wear these T-shirts. But they decided to, kind of call off the dogs on that one and just say, all right, well, let's let this protest happen, I guess, and it's probably better that we just let them do this than create a new controversy about enforcement of fashion at our final tables. So sometimes inaction is the best action, and I think that's the case for Stars.
Indeed. In case you missed it, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau doesn't know that the Baltic countries are a thing. T, did you see this?
Idiot from Northern Europe.
Did you see? So he was taking part in a 60-second challenge by Maclean's
But
magazine.
everybody loves our prime minister now. Like everybody loves Justin.
Awesome.
He rides the bus. He's electing lots of different colored people to the cabinet. I thought everybody loves Justin.
They did. They kind of make fun of him here. Maclean's magazine was hosting a 60-second challenge with him, where they put together some rapid-fire questions on a tablet, and asked him to give his one or two word answers. One of the questions was, "What's your favorite Baltic country?" And to which his answer was, "That's not a thing," which I guess got
Baltic. That's a property in Monopoly, right?
Yeah, and I'm kind of shocked because. Wow, like you don't know that the Baltic countries you've never heard them.
Yeah,
I mean, I know
the head of state of one of the 8 most important countries in the world.
It's kind of like Ross. You know the Baltic countries, right?
I
mean, you know they're a thing.
Yeah.
You might not be able to name all.
Could you name any of them?
Lithuania.
Yes. You got one better than our prime minister.
And yeah, I mean, I sort of cheated because I said something. I didn't actually pay attention to the notes that well, but I said Tony G and I pieced it together.
Oh, okay. T, do you know the capital of without looking, of all the 3 Estonian countries? Estonian, the Baltic countries.
That's far.
What's that? That's hard.
That's pretty.
You're a Sporkle guy. You've done all these.
I'm a Sporkle. I'm not saying I can't do it. I can do it.
Okay, go.
Me?
Yeah.
Or Ross?
You.
I assume Latvia's Riga.
Correct.
Okay. Lithuania is, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Vilnius or something.
Vilnius, I believe that's right.
Estonia, and I would guess that it's Tallinn, but I don't really know.
Correct. I've actually been to one of them. I've been to Tallinn. I won
your heritage, your homeland.
It was, yeah. So it was back in the day, in the wonder years of party poker, when money was falling out of the sky. They had a tournament in Tallinn called the World Speed Poker Championships, which was awesome at the time. They had 2 dealers.
Oh,
and
didn't they have like girls in bikinis holding the shot clocks too?
I mean, yeah, they did. Do we need to get into? Now people are going to say, "Why were you there?" And not protest. No, I'm kidding.
Giant vagina.
It was awesome. This tournament was so much fun. There's 2, like I said, there was 2 dealers at every table. I didn't last very long. I took a beat or whatever, but it was a pretty cool experience. I got to go to Estonia, and I took my dad, who was born in Estonia, or his family's from Estonia, and lived on a farm in the middle of the country. And we rented a car. And it's really a weird country because the town, the capital, is fantastic, and the old part of the town is one of the most amazing places you can ever go. It's amazing. And as soon as we rented a car, and as soon as you get out of the main city, there's nothing. Like, just, you know how when you travel in North America, you'll go through city.
There's a lot of nothing.
City. Well, but there's gas stations,
wheat fields, or whatever.
There's no infrastructure at all in the interior of this country.
There's no Motel 8. After
Nothing.
50
no, zero.
Yeah.
And so we got halfway through into the country, and we found this little. It's not even a city. I wouldn't even call it. It's like and then we went back right away because there was literally nothing. There's no way to, like you said, there's no hotels. But it was an amazing experience. We went to.
The impressive thing was that you got a speeding ticket.
Got kicked out of the country. No, I didn't.
You're probably the only guy who could get a speeding ticket in the middle of nowhere. So.
Yeah, no kidding. So Tony G sees our prime minister does not know what the Baltic countries are, and as Roscoe alluded to, he was quite upset. So he gets together with some of the Baltic politicians because he's in the EU, some I don't know, political body in the EU.
He's important.
He's somewhat important. They all make a video poking fun at Justin Trudeau, saying you're an idiot. Basically, the guy, like basketball players and the Toronto Raptors are from, Baltic country. They're pointing out all these people, and this is, how do you not know these? This is a thing, the Baltic countries. And then he says, and if you want, we can play poker, and I'll take you for everything you've got, which is. It's so out of left field.
Dick measure-y thing.
Yeah, it totally, and that's how it came off. And this was like, what?
Like, you want to go outside, bro?
What does that mean? Yeah, like he didn't say he plays poker. Like, I don't know where that came from.
That's weird. I mean, yeah, it is pretty embarrassing because I mean, if you think of, this kind of like what I thought Justin Trudeau's sort of the golden boy of the last, whatever 2 months or something like that. But if George W. Bush had said something like this during his reign in office, people would have been talking about it forever.
No question.
Forever. Like, oh, George Bush, what an embarrassment. Typical American, doesn't know anything. But like, Justin Trudeau is he's a young kid, but he's got a little geography lessons need to be employed over there on
it's crazy
in Ottawa. We need to send a geography tutor to Ottawa.
Yeah. In case you missed it, a gentleman won a $1 million spin and go on PokerStars this month and immediately sat down in a 2-cent, 4-cent game and buys in for the full $1 million.
It must be like limit hold'em or something.
Love it.
I think it was no limit, but it's still
you can only do it in a limit game.
It's capped.
I love it.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, no limit, of course. Limit. Yeah. I keep saying that. Hilarious that he sits down with $1 million. People have like $8.
Stop talking for a while.
The guy's name is Grind Heaps. This is the online account of Australian poker player Anthony Aston. He becomes the 13th player to win $1 million spin and go top prize. It was a $100 buy-in. He's actually been in 2 of these big jackpots. I don't think it was the other one was for $1 million. He ended up winning $180,000 in an earlier one. So I'm not sure how
that
that
runs good at spinning goes.
Yeah, that would be the top prize for the $60.
Oh, was it? Okay. But
I love the I've done this before. My favorite thing I used to do was play like 200, 400 limit hold'em, and I'd have like 250,000 in my bank account. I'd go sit down at the 1 cent, 2 cent, or 2 cent, 4 cent game and play really tight. I would just like fold for 3 orbits straight and watch the chat go down.
Just tilt the
sit down with 250.
So I did it the opposite.
I would just go and I would just fold 4 orbits in a row. And
I used to play like 30-60 limit or whatever, and I'd go sit down in the 50 cent a dollar game and with a bunch of money and cover my hand over the screen of the cards
and just cap every screen.
Cap, right? Like if I'd won maybe 3,000 or 4,000 or whatever, I'd sit down in this game and I'd blow off like $50 laughing my head off for a little while. And because you tilt the hell out of people like to no end. You
just watch the chat. It's the best.
It's so
nowadays I don't know. I feel like now if you did that, like the 50 cent grinder, like the seating scripts would blow up and it'd be people
that's right.
Yeah. And then people nobody would say a word, hoping not to scare off the fish.
Indeed.
It's a different world that we live in now. We've talked about this a lot in the last few weeks.
It's almost like they stand in line to give you the money here.
Yeah,
that is the old school drop.
Which is the way it should be. It should, like if somebody's just going to show up at your table and give money away, you should never dissuade them from
accept
that.
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Enjoy it. Just hold out your bucket and let it rain money.
Rain cash. Do you think there's ever been a player at a table with 25 million big blinds before? I think that's got to be the biggest. That's
a lot of big
25 million big blinds. That's awesome.
Yeah. Any year the guy who wins the W Coupe could beat that because isn't the W Coupe main is more than $1 million for first, I think, right? So
indeed.
Potentially, it's not an unbreakable record. Let's put it that way.
In case you missed it, Buzio's, the restaurant at the Rio Hotel, just halfway down the hallway not halfway down, just at the end of the hallway from the World Series of Poker area at the Rio, where you walk back up the hallway to the gaming part. There's a fine restaurant there, seafood place called Buzio's Seafood Steakhouse that, I must have had 100 meals in, I'm going to say.
Yeah. I would say I've probably had that, and it would have been more, except that I spend a lot of those World Series with Matt Harvalenko, who doesn't eat seafood, and that's probably the only reason I didn't eat there more often.
He doesn't eat seafood? Wait a second, what? How do you not eat
Harvalenko
seafood?
Doesn't like seafood.
Wow.
A lot of people don't like stuff. I don't know. Some people are just. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna get people mad, but I'm just gonna say Americans. A lot of people are not adventurous when it comes.
I get not liking certain seafood, but just blanket seafood. There's got to be something that tastes good for them. You know what I'm saying? That's weird,
not a
right?
fan of seafood.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah,
it must be a texture or something thing that he doesn't like things or.
Yeah. So, but you're right. It's a sad thing because it was one of the best dinner break options, really. You when you talk about dinner breaks during the World Series at the Rio, Buzios and Cafe Marano are going to be the two places that the poker players gravitate to the most. Both places, first of all, the food is decent at both places. It's nothing world class, and it's nothing, it's not going to blow your mind, but it's good. It's reasonably healthy. It tastes good. It's not insanely priced, and most importantly, the staff do a real good job of handling the poker players. Like if you're a group of 8 and you tell them that you're on your poker tournament dinner break, they know what the deal is, right? Like they know, if it's like this guy and this guy need to order first, and they're just gonna have that, and don't wait for everybody else's food. Just bring them all. Like they've got this. Like they've got this down to science. They've been doing it a long time. They know when the dinner break starts. They know when the dinner break ends. They've got this shit down, and you won't. The thing that was great about Buzios was that if you had somebody who, if you got down at your table at the start of the dinner break, you are not going to miss a hand when you're done with dinner. They just know the deal.
And it's good food. It was very good food for a long time. They were 25 years they were there.
I will miss the bouillabaisse there.
Indeed, yeah. The lobster bisque was fantastic as well. If you want to read about it, Nolan Dalla has written a nice blog about his final meal in the restaurant's final meal, because he was the last one to eat there, in his blog, and there's some good stories in there about having dinner in there over the years. Have
always worth if you ever want to know about like the I would say that if you want to know about food in Las Vegas restaurants, like Jimmy Fricke, who we've had on the show, is definitely the guy to go to if you want your restaurant reviews. But if you want to know about the soul of a Las Vegas restaurant, then you got to go to nolandalek.com and find out about it. I'm sure I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure he wrote them a great obituary.
He did. It's fantastic. In case you missed it, a wife has sued DraftKings and FanDuel for her husband's losses at the two sites. This is hilarious. It totally
he hasn't sued them. His wife.
No, yeah, it's not even like
he's okay.
Honey, you are gonna have to sue these people, or I'm gonna. He just decided to let his wife do it, which is hilarious. It reminds me of the scene in. Have you ever seen White Men Can't Jump? Ross, have you ever seen that?
I was probably not supposed to see it because I think I was like 11 when it came out.
I love that movie. It's
I don't think I was supposed to see it, but I did see it when it came out.
Billy, the one of the main characters, played by Woody Harrelson, ends up getting hustled by Sidney and his partner in crime, so to speak. So Billy's wife, who's played by Rosie Perez, goes to Sidney's house to ask for the money back. All the while, Woody is like getting dragged by his ears, saying, "You can't do that. There's a code to this. You can't do this." Yeah. And
Rosie Perez is probably at the most Rosie Perez of Rosie Perez performances in that movie.
Yeah,
I think she basically is playing Rosie Perez in that movie.
So,
right?
Yeah, she is. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it, but
that's really funny though that the wife is
just suing them. Yeah. Great story. You had a couple of things you wanted to talk about in the in case you missed it area. Why don't you go with it?
Surfing the Twitters as we go. The World Series, I saw the release is 2016 dates, not a detailed event.
They always do this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they always tell you what date it's going to be, so go ahead and book. It's a press release opportunity, right? It's nothing more than that. It's just say, go book your hotel rooms now because they're always going to sell it faster. Like,
right.
I'm sure your June hotels are selling out in November, December.
Exactly.
That's how. But they released their dates. The Colossus is back, most notably, and it's coming back with 1 million guarantee for first, which is a really ambitious guarantee. Now they don't guarantee a prize pool, and we've been on this. We've talked about this. The rest of the poker community has talked about this stuff before. When they do a first place guarantee, sometimes that makes the payout structure not the greatest.
It's a big problem because they're using the poker players' money for advertising, and if it doesn't come through, guess who pays the price? The poker player.
Exactly.
And
the guy who finishes second.
The guy who finishes second, specifically, is because they don't allow deals. So let's say they have to keep it's a $500 buy-in, right? So let's say they have $1 million first prize. Then second place, because of a lack of turnout, ends up to be $100,000. We've talked about the scenario before. Okay, I guess we can have it sucks because you're used poker players' money, but at least these people can make deals, and they're helped and they're sanctioned by the World Series of Poker. They're going to facilitate them so nobody gets screwed. But no, that's not the case. They're not going to allow any deals, even though they've used this money. It tilts the hell out of me, this thing.
Right. Yeah, and they have like the right to do this stuff because they're at least advertising it up front, and they're not making mention of guarantee. They're not doing some of the anything unethical. But let's say, I mean, what do you think that first? Like, what's your personal opinion on when you've got like a huge field like this? What percentage do you think first should make? 15%, 20%,
10, 12, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I mean, that's. Even if we said 20%, which is gigantic for like a field of this, I mean, that still requires 10,000 entries, right? Like to be able to, because you need a $5 million prize pool. You're giving 20% to first. If you're talking about it being 10%, like you just said, that's 20,000 unique entry, or not unique players, but 20,000 different entries, which they're not going to get. So, the 1 million guarantee, like you said, it's a big publicity thing. It's going to make for some funkiness in the payout structure. Yep. Doing 3 starting flights, June 2, 3, and 4. If you want to mark that in your calendar and try to chase your $1 million, you can mark off that weekend. I assume it's a weekend. I didn't even check. I assume that June 2, 3, and 4 is a weekend. Yeah. Okay. So June 2nd is a Thursday, the 3rd is a Friday, and the 4th is a Saturday. So should be able to get in and play in the thing in the weekend. Event kicks off. The whole World Series kicks off as always with the employee event. That'll be June 1st, so the first of the month will be the first day of the World Series.
Usually it's
usually it's like the last week. I remember my fight was May 30th last year, and I missed a few events.
Yeah.
Because I didn't show up until a couple of days after. So So the employees event is on June 1st. That'll be a Wednesday, but it'll make your planning a little bit easier, I guess. Easy to remember the dates. They did release a date for the seniors event. That is June 17, right in the middle. That'll be a Friday, as the seniors event I think typically is always on a Friday. Always draws gigantic fields in advance of all the weekend. Obviously, Saturday tournaments are always like the big mega no limit fields, and I'm sure the seniors will be still around for that one. And then another kind of change to the traditional schedule. The main event will have 3 starting flights. That's not the change. That's been standard for a couple of years now. But it'll be July 9, 10, 11. So that's like a full week later than it's been. It's almost
always on the 4th, right?
Yeah, it's historically kind of been built around the 4th of July weekend. I don't know if they're going away from that, to avoid competition with the 4th of July weekend, or maybe it's just the date that it falls on this week. July 4th, 2016 is a Monday. I don't know what they're doing exactly there, but it'll start a week later and presumably end a week later as well. So pushing back the main, or maybe they're just trying to cram more events in. I'm not sure.
That's probably the bottom line. They're probably upping a few events.
Well, you did just mention that the start is later. Like traditionally, it started on May 27, 28, 29, that 3rd, that kind of thing, and now it's starting on June 1st. So the main pushing back doesn't necessarily mean there will be more events, but possibly an indicator that there will be more events. We'll see.
The seniors event June 17th. I would imagine they're going to bring the super seniors back as well.
Probably 2 days later, right? That's what they did last year. They ran the seniors on the Friday and the super seniors on the Sunday.
Indeed, I would imagine those are going to be back.
I recently turned 35, and I want to push for the idea of a junior seniors event.
So we've got the super, the regular, and you want a junior.
Well, right.
Okay, so bear with me here. Bear with me. Okay. The super seniors is for 65 and older, right?
Yep.
The seniors is for 50 and older. So the next progression down would be 35, right? 65 minus 15,
sure.
50.
You can do math.
50 is 35. So junior senior should be 35, which I happen to be just eligible for as of 2 weeks ago. I think this should be a thing. I think there's a lot of talented juniors. I mean, Daniel Negreanu would be a junior senior. Phil Ivey would be a junior senior. Yeah. We got a lot of the Alan Cunningham. A lot of the guys who were big in the sort of early 2000s. We could get. I think a lot of good 35-year-old poker players would be eligible.
I mean, they are over the hill, so why not? Should be, right?
Yeah. I mean, I John Jawanda. We talked about has John Jawanda been around long enough to be in the Hall of Fame? He's a junior senior. All these people that don't qualify for 50 yet, but I think there's a lot of talented people. I think this is an underrepresented niche, and I'm going to hold Ty Stewart's feet to the fire on this one. Jack Effler makes these decisions. So, yeah.
In case you missed it.
Do I have any support from you guys on this one?
Anytime you can add a poker tournament that I can play in, I'm more than happy to.
And a poker tournament that you can play in, and it gets rid of a lot of really good players.
Right, exactly.
Because there's still a lot of good poker players who are 34 and under.
Yep, no question.
Like, who wants to play with them? Most of the ones whenever we recap tournament results, it's usually a guy under 34 who's won it. So
that's true. true.
We talked a little bit about speaking of poker tournament results, but did you see this international poker open have a tournament in the Philippines?
Yeah,
I think it was. And so, speaking of guarantees, speaking of things that are unethical,
right?
They guaranteed $250,000 for first with a $1,000 buy-in. And they weren't even close after the first, I think it was 2 starting days.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it became very obvious that they were not making this guarantee.
It's called the International Poker Open, I guess is the
and it's like a brand new tour. I've never even heard of it. I don't know if it's a thing. This might be the last tournament they ever run.
Doesn't sound
because they decide, okay, on the third starting day they're not going to make it, so we're just going to let people buy in for $800 instead of $1,000, or even worse. Even worse. Then you can't make this stuff up. They just took random people and bought them into the tournament and said that if you cash in this tournament, you owe us 80%. Like basically, we'll give you a 20% free. Like something that a person would do for a backer, like a friend of theirs, right? But the tournament organizers are doing this, right? So like if Ross were, if this tournament were like in Vancouver and Ross was like, I don't have $1,000, but they're going to miss this guarantee, I'd be like, here, take my money and take a 20% free roll. And people would be like, hey, Terrence is smart. That's a smart business decision by him because there's going to be a big overlay in this tournament. But you don't get to do this if you're the tournament organizers. That is not an okay or an ethical thing to do.
Yeah.
Not even close.
This is always like brutal things about like, it's I don't want to say like like third world but markets where I guess it's just not well defined and you don't know who's running the thing. Like that this kind of tournament wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen in the EPT. It wouldn't happen in a World Series event or a World Series circuit event. It wouldn't happen in a WPT. Like none of this shady shit would ever happen in like a big North American, Europe, or involve the stars or any of the big names.
Yeah. It would happen in Partouche. It would happen in France.
Yeah, it did. And then the owner of Partouche was a complete dickbag about it. That's a good point. So certainly this stuff does happen in many, I guess, other countries. But it goes to show when you're going to play a poker tournament, I guess it's not always just about the value they're going to get, but it goes to like, can you trust the people who are organizing this thing to be ethical? And it's sad because we shouldn't have to think about that kind of thing, right? Like the only things that as a poker player you should have to think about is, is this a place I want to go? Am I going to have a good time? Like, do I like, is it going to be a good structure? Is it going to be value? Is it going to this and that? Like, you shouldn't have to think like, are they just going to rip us off by playing with the overlay, or in some cases just not following through with the guarantee, right? Like you're just saying like, all right, guarantee's off. Like, we advertised 250,000, but screw it.
Remember the International Stadiums Poker Tour? Guaranteed they were going to play it in Wembley, and it got saved by the Dusk Till Dawn people. Yeah, that might have been a bad result as well.
Thanks for reminding me because I couldn't. It wasn't coming to me, which when that happened recent to me. But yeah, like you shouldn't have to think about whether you'll just get screwed over by the people running the tournament. So it's fortunate. Definitely feel bad for the players.
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware in that one. And last item I sort of came across in my quick Twitter scanner this morning. We talked about how Jamie Staples got the old upgrade from Team Online from friend
of PokerStars. Yeah,
I think he might have been the only friend.
He was the only friend at the time.
I can't name another friend of PokerStars.
Me either.
He's PokerStars' only friend. Oh, that's so cute. So
they have no friends now.
PokerStars has no friends now. That's funny. Of course, one of his big influences. Won the world famous now Jason Somerville, now involved in another deal. He's going to be partnering with the Aussie Millions. They've got him on the docket to cover the Aussie Millions main event by Twitch. I didn't check out the details of that now. I just sort of scanned about it on Twitter, but Jay Carver making a deal with the Aussie Millions, which of course is an APPT event now, so there's the whole PokerStars thing rolled up into it. But it's awesome. It's yet more exposure for a poker tournament. Speaking of reputable and honest poker tournaments that are well run, Aussie Millions has been doing it big for 10 years now. I feel like maybe
it's
more.
Been a while, yeah.
Like 10 or 12 years. good, honest poker tournament. Jason Somerville. We always like to see Jason get success. He always deserves all the bit of success he has. So, looks like a good partnership there. Even if I haven't studied up totally on the details of that one.
Yeah, I'm just reading it here. I'm trying to figure it out. It says he's going to cover it on his Twitch channel. It doesn't say if that means. I can't imagine he's going to play in it and Twitch
No, I mean I assume it'll be like Run It Up Reno, where it's just basically televised poker.
Makes it a community event. Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably what's going to end up being.
Right. And I think we've mentioned this like so many times, but it seems clear that the trend now is for live poker tournaments who want some exposure this time. They're going to be going to Twitch and going to online streaming instead of the traditional channels of, let's make a TV deal and then try to sell it to some network. And all that stuff seems to be done with in the poker world for the most part, with a few exceptions, and mostly migrating over to Twitch.
Yeah, indeed. All right, that's going to do it for In Case You Missed It. We are sponsored by CrushLivePoker.com. This is a website that's going to help you with your live poker. Lots of training videos, huge library to go over there and check out if you're a live poker player and want some help playing all the different games. Our buddy Bart Hansen is at the helm of that fine site, and he's got a special Christmas promotion, I understand, Roscoe.
Yeah, he does. We also have a strategy minute that is coming up now, and I guess in the second break you can hear about the promotion where you can get your friend a subscription. But the strategy minute is about how to play
Ace King, I guess.
How to play Ace King.
Yeah,
nice.
Out of position.
Out of position. Are in.
One million.
Just doesn't matter. You're playing a live poker. You're just like 250 big blinds deep.
Don't you love when people do that? Like, they just play it one way. I mean, they just do not want to play that hand out of position. So, if they have like 50 big blinds and somebody raises in front of them, they're all in.
Yeah. That's pretty standard.
It's really not the. I mean, I guess David Sklansky's talked about it. It's like it's not the worst strategy like directly.
He advocates that, right? In his tournaments.
But it kind of makes the rest of your hands difficult to play. Ace King.
It's a bit tough to balance your range. Indeed. Okay, so here's Bart Hansen on how to play Ace King out of position. Also coming up, if you want to hear about the big promotion they have for Christmas this year, getting signed up over at CrushLivePoker.com. Check out that ad coming up, and we will talk to you after the break. Lots more here. We got Mason Malmuth's going to come on and talk about his new book, and as well we've got some listener voicemails, some actual emails, lots of different stuff for you coming up in the third segment as well. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hello and welcome to another 2+2 Strategy Minute, brought to you by CrushLivePoker.com. I'm Bart Hansen, and this week I want to talk about playing Ace King and Ace Queen post-flop after just flatting pre-flop. Specifically, I want to discuss missing the flop after you flat pre-flop with Ace King and Ace Queen. The interesting thing about flatting with Ace King and Ace Queen, besides the fact that your hand is slightly under-repped, is that a lot of times the pre-flop raiser is going to actually represent the boards that you hit with Ace King and Ace Queen. And when you see disconnected ragged boards, especially if the pot is heads up or there might only be 3 people in the hand, like 9-deuce-5, 10-deuce-4, those are really good boards for the preflop raiser to make a continuation bet bluff. They might actually have the same types of hands as you do with Ace King, Ace Queen. So if you flat with Ace King, Ace Queen, you can continue on when you miss, because you get the best of both worlds. Number one, if you hit an ace or a queen, it's somewhat hidden, and people won't believe that certain cards that come actually improve your hand. And number two, you still might have the best hand with Ace King or Ace Queen high on those types of boards. So not only is the preflop raiser going to continue to barrel when cards come that give you equity or actually hit your hand, but you actually might have the best hand right now. Now let's get back to the Pokercast.
Hey, poker fans, don't forget about the 2plus2.com digital magazine. Each month, a wide array of poker professionals and media write fascinating articles about the game you love. Want to learn about big blind versus small blind hand ranges? How about optimal Jeopardy daily double strategy? Topics like those and many others are covered every month. Head on over to 2plus2.com to see what the magazine has to offer this month. Okay, people, most of the kittens have perished. There are a few left you can save, though, and here's how to do it. Get involved with the Pokercast by emailing your questions, suggestions for the show, or even record a sound clip. Adam will be using the best ones on the air. Well, let's face it, probably the worst ones as well. I can see you there at your computer. Send an email right now. Totally disagree with one of Adam's takes last week? Send an email. Love last week's interview? Email. Want to know how much cash Adam has on him right now? Email. Pokercast at 2plus2.com is the address. Ship the funny to Adam today.
At the 800 table, UTG min raises to 8K with 32 big blind effective. Cutoff calls with 70 big blinds, and I call with 10-9 of spades on the button with a stack of 400K. Both blinds fold. Flop comes Jack 8-6 rainbow with 1 spade. UTG bets 14K, cutoff calls, and I overcall. The turn is the ace of spade, giving me a flush draw. UTG keeps on betting, 32K this time. Cutoff calls again, and I raise to 90K. After tanking for a few minutes, UTG lets it go. Cutoff takes even longer before folding too.
Team Pro Online's Marc-Andre French Dog Ladouceur is a Supernova Elite VIP. This is the 2plus2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club.
Hey folks, don't forget to follow the Pokercast crew on Twitter. Adam is at PokercastAdam, and he'll keep you up to date on things like upcoming guests, listener contests, and all the latest bacon-related food innovations. Follow Ross at PokercastRoss, and you'll discover new hip-hop bands and learn how to not play Microstakes No Limit. Also, give us a like on Facebook, where we post lots of photos and other nonsense.
Hey guys, this is Bart Hansen for CrushLivePoker.com. Whether you're a recreational player who wants to compete at the tables, or you're a professional and you want to increase your win rate, the material that I've produced at CrushLivePoker.com will make you a better poker player. Act now and you can subscribe for free by using the coupon code TPC11. That's TPC for the Pokercast11 and get your first month free.
That's just me, then I proceeded to brush some stranger's teeth, but they were my teeth, and I was weightless, just quivering like some leaf come in the window of a restroom. I couldn't tell you what the hell it was supposed to mean, but it was a Monday, no Tuesday, no Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then Saturday came around, and I said, who's this stupid clown blocking the bathroom sink?
Welcome back to the 2plus2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. Our guest this week is the grand poobah of this fine site that we are lucky enough to have our show on each week. He is Mason Malmuth. Before we get to the interview with Mason, I want to do this week's Internet Poker's Wall of Fame. Going up on the wall this week is none other than Mr. Mason Malmuth, who we have on the line. Started 2plus2.com many years ago, and I believe Mason can confirm if this story is right, but in the back of all the books, and the very first, when he first started selling books at 2plus2, he put a little card in there that drove traffic to the website 2plus2.com. The discussion board was born at that time. I don't think Mason had any idea that it was going to become the discussion, the center of the poker world that it has. But Mason Malmuth, welcome to the Internet Poker's Wall of Fame, sir.
Hi, good to be here. By the way, there's no truth to that story.
There's none at all? I thought that was the story and how it started.
No, that's not how. That's not how it started. What we did was there was the old RGP site, the Rec.
Sure.
And we put some post up there and said we started this bulletin board. If anyone wants to come over, we'll try to respond to. And we began to get a few people to come over and post.
That was it.
That was it.
You
I remember the rivalry for such a long time between 2+2 and Rec.Gambling.Poker, which was not a website, it was just an internet NNTP group for those who are old enough to remember it. But there were some very lively debates with a lot of the people who were some of the biggest names in poker in the late 90s and the early 2000s, right, Mason? Do you have any like kind of favorite stories about the early days?
Well, I definitely remember those debates. We started the website in 1997, and we basically had one forum. And I guess around the year 2000, we were really beginning to pick up traffic. And that's when these debates occurred as to which would be the dominant site, the Rec Gambling Poker or 2+2. And I guess what began to happen was the RGP site just began to get filled with spam and all sorts of insults and other stuff. So they sort of defaulted to us.
Yeah, 2+2 had a moderated forum, so you could get rid of all that stuff. But no, there was no bookmark or anything. It didn't have the website in the bookmark. I swore that was the start.
You're really hung up on this.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I misremember.
What we did was we put on the back cover.
Oh, okay.
Today, come to the 2+2 site.
Ah, okay, that's what did it back.
Have an inserted card like you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I love the induction, Adam, and I myself had Mason on the list because of the founding of 2+2. It's hard to understand because we're so deep in the poker world, but it's hard to understand just how big and influential 2+2 poker is because the forum specifically. Obviously, it started out as a publishing company, and then but obviously the forum's just taken a life of its own. But anytime any news breaks, our whole in case you missed the segment's obviously based off of things that happen on 2+2. But it's not just big in the poker world. It's actually like big worldwide. I'm actually on a website right now. It's called thebiggestboards.com.
Right.
2+2 Poker Forum is the number 20 poker forum listed in the world.
Number 24, not just poker forum.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like number 6 is like Martial Arts Planet. Number 3 is 4chan, which everybody knows.
Yeah.
Honda. There's a Honda forum at number 12. Sherdog Mixed Martial Arts at 14. It's just so big. It's hard to think of. Obviously, the poker community is large, but it's hard to think of a community that is so concentrated to one website, and that's quite a testament to Mason. I think your business prowess and what you've done building that site and making it sort of the place to. Because obviously people love discussing poker, but you've managed to make 2+2 by far the dominant place to talk about poker.
Well, the interesting thing there is when we started the site, we thought it was 50-50 we'd get a post.
One post? You thought you'd get one post?
Yeah, that's what we thought. We thought that we had a 50% chance we'd get one post that wasn't, the original members, myself and David and so on.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of that you had. You had Ray Z talking strategy and David as well. I mean, that would have brought people, I'm sure. And it's not just the forums, right? When you think that's what we think of because we spend a lot of time on the forums each day, but it's the books that we've read, in the past in our poker careers. The texts, the wealth of poker knowledge that 2+2 has put out over the years. I think either of those reasons are good enough for our little Internet Poker's Wall of Fame. So congrats on that. We'll get on to the real reason, Mason, why we're bringing you on this week is to talk about your new book, Real Poker Psychology. And for those that have read the past texts of Mason and 2+2, it's very strategy-orientated. This one, Mason, a bit more esoteric in that you tackle a lot of subjects that maybe don't have... you can't chart on a graph, but this is a lot of your experience, right?
Well, I've been around poker for a long time, and just over the years, I would sometimes write something that wasn't exactly strategy or a little different direction with the article, and just over time, I developed isn't the right word, but I'd accumulated probably enough material that was sitting on my computer for maybe 2/3 of a book. So recently I got some other material sort of came along and I was able to finish the book. It's actually something I've talked about for years, getting this book done.
That's interesting, Mason, because it seems to me, and maybe this is just my impression or my faulty memory, but it seems that psychology in the poker world seems to be taking front and center a lot more in the last kind of 2-3 years. There's a lot more people writing about it. There's a lot more people who thought on it. I mean, I'd never heard of sort of a poker psychology coach until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But now this is a very popular field. But it's something that you kind of thought of before this became a popular thing.
Well, in the year 2000, we actually published 2 books that would come under the heading of Psychology of Poker. One was Alan Schoonmaker's book, which we call The Psychology of Poker. And that's kind of a foundational book, best way to describe it. But the other book we published was called Inside the Poker Mind by a very good player at the time named John Feeney, who also had a PhD in psychology. And Alan Schoonmaker, I want to leave him out, he too had a PhD in psychology. But John Feeney's book was sort of looking at how psychology related some to poker strategy and what was going right and going wrong there with players. But all that, those 2 books came out within a few months of each other back in the year 2000. And we really hadn't done anything in that area since. And then, as you say, it seems like about 3 years ago, this stuff with the mental coaching started up. And one of the purposes of 2+2, which has always been one of my main drivers, is that we try to help our followers or posters or readers move towards that material which we feel is good. And that's the case whether we're the publisher or not. But we also try to help them steer away from material which is highly questionable. And the way I finished this book was I just recently began to look at some of this poker psychology stuff, and I just found it to be just way off base and unrealistic and just outright silly in many instances. I think you see that reflected in the book I wrote.
Yeah, I think so. And what I've seen, Mason, by reading as much as I have so far, is that you sort of you approach it on a lot of your experience playing in the games in Las Vegas and California for your poker career, and trying to cut through a lot of the narrative that surrounds this poker mental coaching, and some of it's valid, and in your opinion some of it isn't valid, and that seems to be a bit of a focus of the book. Am I right?
I think that's correct. What a lot of people don't realize how much poker I've actually played. I've never been much of one for tournaments, and because of the 2+2 business, I've never really had the time to go to a tournament and play long days of tournaments. But I've always played a fair amount of poker. I've played a lot of different stakes, and I've played a lot of different games, which is another thing very few people realize. And from that, I've just seen a lot of things. And what I began to notice was that when I began to look at this poker psychology stuff, was that much of the stuff that they talked about could be explained easily by understanding the short-term luck factor in poker, understanding that many things based on probability theory, including poker, are often counterintuitive, and that if you really understood how to play poker well, and also understood all things poker, which includes something like the short-term luck factor, most everything was easily explained. And these things that were being advocated just at best had very little value.
Right. I feel like having read the book, the theme that you kind of hit on over and over, and it's an idea that I agree with pretty strongly. It's that the important thing is to sort of get good at, and please correct me if I'm misinterpreting or if I'm saying this, phrasing this in a way that you don't agree with. But getting good at poker and understanding fundamental poker concepts and understanding the combinatorics and the probability it's a prerequisite to doing well in poker. You just can't get away without that stuff, and no amount of mental coaching or mindset coaching or positive thinking is going to overcome a significant skill deficit relative to your opponent in these that you have to have these fundamentals down and this understanding of math and probability before any of the poker psychology stuff even matters at all. Is that about right?
I think that is about right. And one of the things I've noticed when I look at this poker psychology material, and Terrence, this is something I think you would be real good at responding to, is that if you apply it to a sport, an athletic sport, it makes a lot more sense. But when you bring it over into poker, you're looking at something that does not require, speed, coordination, and timing. And the key to poker is understanding how to play well. I've played tennis since I was a kid, and I give a number of examples in there using tennis. But when you play tennis, and this is right out of the book, and the ball gets hit to you, if you're a good tennis player, what your mind very quickly decides is where you're going to hit the ball to, how hard you're going to hit it, how much spin you're going to put on the ball, and so on. And then you have to go do it. Now, the doing it part requires speed, timing, and coordination. And for speed, timing, and coordination, that's where things like focus come in, confidence come in, being relaxed comes in, less stress. All that kind of stuff helps the function of actually hitting the tennis ball right. And when you go to poker, you just don't have this second thing. You have to have the knowledge of what to do. But like if I bet and Terrence, it's your turn, your decisions are whether to fold, call, or raise, and if it's no limit or pot limit, you know how much to raise. And then once you make that decision, you just do it. I mean, you don't need speed, timing, and coordination, and strength and mental toughness and some of this other stuff to put the chips in the pot.
Yeah, you don't need that reaction or any of the physical stuff. And I'll quote directly from the book if I can, hopefully not too much. But you have a section rather called I think it was Silly Concepts, and you kind of say what you just said, which is being well rested has been shown to be helpful to athletes and performers, and so should benefit poker players. That's what you quote as the silly concept, and then you say that it's good to be well rested, but it's much more important in actual sports that involve coordination. But I wonder. I mean, people have been shown to show poor judgment when they're say sleep deprived or or they're in a poor state of mind. People show poor judgment or they just make mental errors similarly to when they've had a bit too much to drink. The sort of scientific evidence suggests that sleep deprivation is very similar to being over the legal limit for alcohol. So wouldn't these sort of factors also make you bad at playing poker? Like, I understand what you're saying. It doesn't matter how quickly I put the chips in the pot. All I have to do is, if raising is the right play, then all I have to do is say raise, and then it doesn't really matter how I. But isn't it more likely that I might make a mistake by folding or raising if I'm not in a good state of mind?
I think I know how to answer that. I was on Lyman's podcast, and he asked me about testing, and how there's this big industry built up for things like the SAT test and so on. And I actually mentioned this in the book, but the most sophisticated, demanding test I ever took was get my master's degree in math. I had to take an oral exam. I wasn't the most dedicated graduate student in the world, so my professors made it very clear to me this is going to be a significant test. So I basically, over spring break in 1975, I studied 12 to 15 hours a day. And I think that's the answer to your question. It's really how sophisticated is it? If something is tremendously sophisticated, which requires instant recall of many, many, many things that perhaps took thousands of hours to learn and understand, then your statement has to become correct. But poker's not that way. I mean, poker does require work, and it does require a lot of understanding. But in poker, you don't need to have instant recall. One of the things that I talk about in the book is how you go about learning how to play poker. And there seems to be sort of two strains of thought now. One is what I subscribe to, which is that you learn a finite number of concepts which govern strategic play. And then when you're playing a hand, your brain quickly calls in the concepts which are important to apply to the particular hand that's at play. And sometimes the concepts will contradict each other. And it can take a little bit of time for your mind to work out what the right play is. But you don't have to have instant recall. Now, the other approach, which again seems to be advocated by these poker psychologists, is situations and hand histories. And they just advocate that you should look at this gigantic number of hand histories. And if that was the right way to play to learn how to play poker, you would have to have such a huge memory of all these different specific situations that in that case, I think your statement then becomes correct. But the right way to learn how to play poker, it's really not, in my opinion. So, if you're a very good poker player and you're dead tired, and let's say you're playing for a living, and you're in the poker room and you see a real good game, I mean, you should just sit down. Your expectation will still be fairly high.
It's interesting, Mason. That sleep deprivation state or that unfocused state, if you're playing poker. Now, if poker doesn't, I don't know if it depends on what type of game you're playing. Like if no limit is different than limit, or what if there's more of a decision tree to run through the different options that you have. Like, let's say you're playing no limit and you're playing 500 big blinds deep. Is that different than playing, 10, 20 limit hold'em or something? And you have a whole bunch more information to process, going through different scenarios on what's going to happen here if you raise this guy in this spot. But if you're in that tired state, or if you mimic that tired state, like I think the example was if you've eaten 6 Big Macs in the last hour and you feel, that feeling you get when you do that, are you able to focus as much on all that different information that you've got to process? It seems like, maybe you process that information a lot easier than some other people do, and it's very black and white for you, but for other people, maybe they need all that, different mind power, so to speak, to come to the correct decision.
Well, I can't say for sure that what you just stated is not the case. However, the vast majority of the decisions you make at the poker table, no matter what the game is, are really quite straightforward. And you can make them very quickly. Now, there's no question that when you watch people play no limit as compared to playing limit, they do play much slower. It's just the nature of the game, and I think it has something to do with the impact of a better bet being more meaningful. And what I mean by that is there's many situations in limit hold'em or any limit game. Well, I guess to be true in limit stud as well, where the pot's fairly large compared to the bet. So you can't ever be making much a mistake by calling a bet. But in no limit, that's not the case. The bet can always be relatively large compared to the pot. And so if you make a mistake in no limit, in terms of expectation, it could be, much more serious. And I think that's what slows the game down a lot.
You mentioned in the book, you mentioned earlier in the interview about short-term luck, and that's, of course, otherwise known as variance. And it seems like this is the root of a lot of problems for people playing a lot of poker, is that they don't know, or they don't, and myself included, in my past, of course, a lot of us have gone through this. You don't properly understand the place that variance has in the game, why it's necessary to have a healthy poker system, and how to deal with it properly, in that embracing it as that necessary evil of the game of poker. And it seems like that's a lot of the thesis, or a lot of the discussion in your book about how to embrace variance.
Well, the right way to play poker, no matter what the game, is to always play with positive expectation. In other words, every hand you play, you want to theoretically have an edge on it. But there's this very large short-term luck factor in the game. And of course, this short-term luck factor varies, from game to game, and who your opponents are and everything. But it basically means that you can be just an excellent player with a long history of winning, and you're going to have very good win rates in the games you play, but you're going to have some losing nights, and occasionally they'll be significant. But if you understand that every play you make is theoretically making you money. The short-term luck factor that basically goes away in terms of how you should look at the game strategically. Now, one of the things that I talk about in the book, well, first in the book, early in the book, we define what tilt is, and we give a mathematical model for tilt. And then a little later in the book, I talk about something we call pseudo-tilt. And pseudo-tilt is the idea that some players have. It's sort of a state where they feel that leaving a winner becomes the most important thing. Well, leaving a winner and playing every hand with a positive expectation may not be the same thing. Every now and then, if you play poker, for example, let's say you go to a poker room and you plan to play for 5 hours. Well, occasionally after 3.5 hours or so, you'll find yourself down significantly. This will be the case even if you're a very good player. Well, when that's the case, and leaving a winner is the most important thing, what is now the right strategy? Well, the right strategy now is to make a rational decision, to play extra hands, and hope to get lucky on those hands. But this comes with a price, and the price is you lower your overall expectation. And you even may turn yourself from a winner into a loser. But I call it pseudo-tilt because this is a rational decision that people make. It's not, when people go on tilt, they lose the ability to think rationally. Of course, if you're sitting in a game and you see someone playing like this, it's sometimes hard to tell the difference whether they're actually on tilt or have made a rational decision to begin to play loose in an attempt to get even. And basically the way you tell that is through experience by playing with the same person. But that's just an example of the way people get off of understanding what the short-term luck factor is and what it can do.
Right. I think always to me, for my own framing, the thing that's always stuck in my head is to always think of it as, your life as one session, right? So and that sort of gets you out of the trap of, oh, I have to leave for this, I have to be a winner for this session, or stop losses or anything of that nature that sets an arbitrary time set point, because obviously expectation doesn't care about when you decide to leave or when you decide to quit a game. But it is natural sort of human behavior. I think you would agree that variance is very hard for most people to deal with because, and I'm no expert on behavioral science, but my understanding is even when people are aware of their own cognitive biases, even when they know that, okay, it's all one long session and that I can't, and that if I try too hard to get even, that this is going to hurt my long run expectation, or even if I feel, there are still many things that are sort of monkey brains don't quite grasp really well, whether it's, oh man, like I'm missing all my flushes lately, I've missed 12 flushes in a row, or but this guy is hitting all his hands, or I'm really on a heater, every time I have a pair I flop a set. Even though we may intellectually know that these are random events, like I say, our monkey brains are designed to trick us into thinking that there are patterns. And so I guess my question to you then is, in a sense, is understanding mathematics enough? And I'm like you, I'm a math guy, but is it enough, or do we have to realize that we as humans sort of have these cognitive biases and these cognitive deficits, and maybe some of the ideas that these mindset coaches have, even if they're not poker experts, they may have some value?
Well, first, everything you said is I agree with it. The only slight correction I would make is it's actually statistical theory as opposed to mathematical theory when you get into the things like variance and luck factor and so on. Even though it's all based on the math. The answer to the question is, and you hit on it right there, is you are actually describing events that cause people to go into tilt. Because what happens is events occur which they just don't think are possible. And their minds try to figure out how this can happen. And I like to use the term in the book, I've been criticized by some of the poker psychologists that it's not term that doesn't make any sense is that your mind locks up. And basically what happens is your brain can't figure out why these bad events happen to you. And when there's no solution, it can't go on from that point. And that's what you're hitting on there. On the other hand, if you really do understand the underlying theory and how the statistical theory works and the short-term luck factor and so on, and how it can impact things, you realize that these things are just supposed to happen. And if you play enough poker, the probability of them happening becomes a certainty. And then once you understand that, it becomes much easier to move on. You know, there's another side to this story, which, again, these poker psychologists get wrong, and that is, as is quickly explained in the book, your results are proportional to the number of hands that you play. But the short-term luck factor is proportional to the square root of the number of hands that you play. And for anybody listening wondering what that means, it just basically means that the more you play, the less of an impact the short-term luck factor will have. And eventually your results are dominated by your skill and not by whether you were lucky or unlucky on some particular night. And this is another area where these poker psychologists, I believe, fail. And I remember in one of the books I read, there was an example of a player who had done poorly for 2 years, and I believe he was a tournament player. And then they discovered he was suffering from sleep apnea, so they got him a sleep apnea machine, which I'm sure would help him sleep better. And the conclusion was, well, now you can sleep better, you should have good results. Well, boy, it's really, if you play poker, a lot of poker for 2 years and you have bad results, it probably means you're a bad player. And it's also the best predictor of your future results are your past results. Not necessarily your results last night, but your past results over some reasonable period of time.
Wouldn't that apply more to, I'm just thinking if that's a tournament player or a cash game player, if it's a tournament player, there's a ridiculous amount of variance in tournaments. If you can even play enough in 2 years to have a proper sample, live tournaments that is, versus cash games where you can definitely play enough hands to get a proper sample. But if he's a tournament player, he's played, some number of tournaments in 2 years that probably isn't a significant sample. I understand it doesn't have to be the reason why he does better. He could have just been, variance, but does it make it more likely that maybe he's going to do better?
Well, there's no question that the variance is higher in tournaments in general. Some tournaments are now going to pay back as many as 25% of the players instead of 10% of the players. So if you're in tournaments like that, that will lower the short-term luck factor. But there's another thing you can do. Now, this isn't talked about in the book because it's actually strategy. But when you're in a game, if you're a knowledgeable player, and you can see clear mistakes that other people are making, you really don't need to play that much to know if you have an edge or not. So when you look at the short-term luck factor, what we call classical statistics, it might be a very long time for it to settle down. But when you're playing Hold'em and you see people playing King 10 offsuit under the gun, for example, and making just a number of outright terrible plays, that really is what we call Bayesian statistics, where you can bring in outside information. That's really telling you that you should have an edge if you can recognize a number of mistakes your opponents are making. And they are definitely mistakes. It's not things that you're not quite sure upon because maybe they do it differently from the way you do it. That's the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to revisit this sort of hypothetical or real situation with the person who's, sleeping better because they've resolved their sleep apnea. And you talk about this quite a bit in the book about things like, getting a good night's sleep and nutrition and exercise being sort of overrated. And they're certainly not going to take a losing player and make them a winning player, and they're not going to take a small winner and make them a huge winner. But are there potentially sort of incremental gains? So if this person who sleeps better, it's hard to quantify these things, of course, but let's say he is maybe 1% or 2% better ROI because he sleeps better. And then maybe if he switches to a healthy diet, that's another 2% or 3% better. And if he has a more positive lifestyle and does some meditation or whatever kind of thing, positive change that he might be making, maybe these small incremental changes are important, especially at the highest levels, where I think a lot of, I think at the very high stakes games and the very high stakes tournaments where kind of everybody's quite good, maybe this could make a significant difference in somebody's win rate, or you think it doesn't matter at all?
I actually addressed that. Let me find the spot, and I'll read it to you. It's in the conclusion of the book.
Okay, great.
I don't know, my computer. I'm supposed to be able to get to these things quicker.
Where's Maddie? Get Maddie to do it.
Maddie gonna need it. Does most everything else. Well, this is I wrote. This is on page 241. So it starts on the very bottom of page 241. In a different tack, I want to take a moment and examine the idea of much of this poker psychology stuff. Is it really as bad as this book indicates? Or is my attitude too negative? I think the answer goes something like this. Now, let me just pause there. That's basically the question that Terrence just asked.
Right.
Here's the answer. Poker psychology, as presented in much of the recent material that has made its way to market, probably has a little value. It certainly won't help to be more confident, to pay attention to a higher degree, to have a good diet, or to even get a good night's sleep. But if it means that you as a poker player latch onto this stuff and neglect to do those things that can improve your understanding of all things poker, and this includes the strategic concepts that govern sound play, then it really is quite detrimental to your long-term results. I think that's exactly the point that Terrence is raising. I agree that if you're a very high-stakes player and you're in games, well, let me give a specific example. If you're a very high-stakes player and you play in a game, a typical game, the high-stakes player play in, almost everybody else is also an expert player. So at best, you have a very, very small win rate. So if you're able to increase your win rate by just a little bit, it could still be a lot in terms of absolute dollars. And that's where this stuff can have some value, I think, to people like that. Just to give you an example, so I'll just use limit since I play more limited than no limit. But suppose you're playing in a 1,000, 2,000 limit hold'em game against basically mostly experts. I mean, your win rate in that game might be $200 an hour. Now, $200 an hour sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people. But for that particular game, it's a very, very small win rate. Now, if you get on top of all this poker psychology stuff, and you're well rested, you have a good diet, and so on, maybe you raise it up to $300 an hour. Well, $300 an hour is a lot more than $200 an hour. So in that example, it does make a pretty significant difference. But if you're just a typical player playing in a low or mid-stakes game, and you're still learning how to play, and there's a lot you don't understand, I think this stuff is mostly garbage.
It's interesting because I think it also applies differently to different people from what I can see, Mason, in that some people need routine, some people need a process to get better or to improve themselves personally, to both get better as a poker player, get better, in their own personal health and so forth. And some people don't, and I think clearly you don't need that to make yourself better. You're very structured already in your life, but a lot of people maybe aren't. So they grasp on to physical fitness, they grasp on to eating properly, meditating, things that further themselves towards their goal. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but it becomes part of their process to not only improving as a poker player, but improving as a person. And maybe that's not something that you need. Do you know what I mean?
Actually, I mentioned that exact thing in the book. I'm trying to look if I can find it.
And it seems like what you're saying too is that your time is generally better off served as a poker player studying the game to get better as a poker player rather than all the other things that surround. But at some point, there's an inflection point maybe where, if you do all that studying and constantly work on your game and becoming better, that maybe that there is room at some point for all this other stuff that incrementally, will improve as well.
I have a chapter on mental toughness.
Okay.
I'm going to start reading. I think this is the right place. One way that mental toughness may be helpful to poker players is the idea that mentally tough people are willing to do what it takes to persevere. One of the reasons we play poker is that it's fun to play. At least it is on those winning nights. But if a mentally tough player is willing to give up a fun night so that he can study and improve his overall knowledge of poker, then being mentally tough becomes a good thing. I think that's exactly what you're saying.
I think so, yeah.
In this chapter, see, to me, mental toughness is mainly a concept that applies to sports, and especially sports where there's contact. And it applies to football, and it applies to something like boxing or other forms of fighting. I think Terrence could probably answer this much better than I can. But I gave an example in here. Let me read it to you. This is on page 82. And probably the most famous example of a fighter not showing mental toughness is when Sonny Liston quit against the young Muhammad Ali, at the time Cassius Clay, after the sixth round in their bout in Miami Beach in 1964. It's my opinion that Liston, even though he was known as a tough guy, didn't want to face the humiliation of continuing in a fight he couldn't win. And this is clearly a symptom of not being mentally tough.
Yes. Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess there are those people who thought, I'm not the greatest boxing historian. I thought there's always some people who thought that Sonny Liston was taking a dive too. But I mean, certainly, because he was broke and he owed a lot of money.
Right.
That's my understanding of it. But certainly, I mean, mental toughness is difficult. It's a much, I think, I agree with you that it's a absolutely necessary attribute for combat sports, and I guess probably all physical sports. I mean, especially individual sports, and that certainly poker, it has value, but not the value to extent that which it would. And I would also draw a distinction between poker tournaments and poker cash games, because a cash game you could quit at any time. Now, in a cash game, the problem with quitting a good game is, of course, you're giving up some money. But in a poker tournament, you're sort of stuck, and in fact, the stakes get elevated every hour or 2 hours. So you're actually playing a bigger game all the time. I guess those are my thoughts on that.
Right, I think I agree with that completely. This is another one of these ideas that's found its way into the poker psychology stuff. That's really promoted as something important. And in the world of poker, it's not very important. But in many other sports, which are athletic in nature, it's highly important. I mean, the football coaches talk about being mentally tough all the time. I have another example in here. Terrence can comment on this. But I know that with new boxers who have one of their first or second or third fights, a number of them get hit, and they come back to the corner and they say to their trainer, cut the gloves off. Once they discovered what it really feels like to get hit, they don't want to do it again. Obviously, that's not the mentally tough guy. The mentally tough guy and says, well, I didn't particularly like it, but I'm going to go out there and do it again.
Right. Or in fact, in some cases, it even spurs them on to want that second round even more than they might have wanted if they had a good round.
Yeah. How that carries over into poker, I don't know. I mean, in poker, you know what the right play is if you're a good player. Then you just make it. And there's another thing about poker which is different. Poker, again, has this large short-term luck factor. But that means you don't put your life on the line. Sometimes in a sport like boxing, you basically do put your life on the line, especially if you're challenging at a very high level. But what I mean by putting your life on the line is you don't play with the rent money. And that's because no matter how well you play, you can always lose all the rent money.
Yeah.
Right.
Significant. Mason, you talk a lot about tilt in the book, and that goes to more mental toughness as well. And when I was reading it, I was kind of thinking, have you ever found yourself in your entire poker career playing suboptimally or tilting? I mean, it must have happened to you at some point.
I've been upset at times because I've done poorly. But when I entered the poker/gambling arena, I was already a highly trained statistician, and I understood this stuff at a very high level. So I understood immediately there was a short-term luck factor, and that it was very significant. I remember, it's not in this book, it's a gambling theory book, but when I first started playing, there was a dealer I got to know. I got to know her and her husband. And one day I was talking to her because her husband was a player and had been doing poorly. And she said to me, you can't measure luck. Well, I immediately thought, of course you can measure luck. There's an expectation and there's a variance. These are all statistical measures. You just got to keep track of the right information, and you'll have a pretty good measurement of it. Most people didn't understand that. So I've never really been troubled very much in that area. Many other players are. And generally what you see, though, is expert players are not troubled. It's the marginal players who are struggling with their games and trying to get better. Those are the ones who are troubled. And it's simply because they don't understand what's happening and what's taking place. And their minds, again, I use this term locked up, their minds can't proceed through the issue that's troubling them, and they sort of can't get to the other side of the road. I use a mathematical model to describe tilt, and it's based on points of discontinuity, what you call logic disconnects. Pretty easy model to explain. It's actually very closely related to humor. And but basically what's happening there is a person who begins to suffer from tilt runs into some issues that he doesn't understand. These issues bother him. His mind can't proceed past it, and sort of gets locked into something like an infinite programming loop, and loses the ability to think rationally. And that's what causes the tilt. And the cure for that is to understand how to play poker better, understand the proper strategic concepts, but also to get a good understanding of all other things poker, particularly the short-term luck factor and how it impacts the games you're playing.
Mason, what do you make of? So you've encountered these people. You've been in the poker game for such a long time. About these people who are really strong poker players and do understand really good understand poker concepts well and understand probability and statistics, but they seem to have significant leaks. Whether it's betting on sports or betting in the pit or strip clubs, all of these sort of things that are sort of activities that are very bad for your bankroll. Let's just say yet they are strong poker players. Like, what do you make of the psychology of these types of poker players?
Well, you're hitting there on something again which is not covered in the book, but I was actually asked a similar question in a different interview the other night. I think there are a small number of players who are just naturally gifted, and they just find the right niche in poker. It might be a tournament, it might be a particular form of poker, and they're just very, very good at it. And they couldn't tell you how they played. If you ask them, why did you make this play, they really don't know. So they're almost like idiot savants when it comes to certain aspects of poker. And so I think that's what you're seeing. You're seeing some of these people who have these other leaks. And I give an example of someone like that in the book. There was a player who died a year and a half ago. We all knew him. We all liked him very much, named Danny Robinson. I think he was you guys interviewed. I know.
Yeah, one of our favorite interviews of all time. He was fantastic on the show.
I mean, he's the greatest storyteller there ever was when it came to things poker, and he was maybe the best 7-card stud player there ever was. But there was a guy who had leaks in his life. This was the guy. I mean, he did just everything wrong, and yet there he was playing poker. I mean, and playing magnificently. And if you really understand stud maybe more than any other game, hand values are constantly changing because of the up cards. And the great stud players are the people who are able to very accurately adjust what the hand values are, in their minds, and then how to proceed. And he may have been the best there ever was at that.
The book is Real Poker Psychology, Mason. Why don't you tell everybody the best ways to get the different formats?
Well, you can go to our site and get it. Actually, you buy it through Professional Poker. And he currently has it as a printed copy and as an ebook. You can also get it right now on Amazon. They only have the printed copy. The Kindle, which is a different form of ebook, is being worked on. It's not ready yet, but we hope to have that up on Amazon in a couple of weeks.
Do you ever do the book by tape where you read the book out?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite grasp.
Do you ever do the books on tape version where you audiobook version where you read the book and people download the audio file?
We have no plans to do that.
No, okay. Fair enough. Thanks so much, Mason, for your time. Really appreciate talking about the book, and everybody out there should go get it.
Okay, that'll be fine with us.
Thanks, Mason.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much to Mason for joining us and talking to us about the book. T, what'd you think of? So there's interesting because I think I said it to Mason in one of the questions I posed. It's one of those. It's a lot of these topics are how your personality is. Like you approach. To me, anyway, this is my observation. People approach certain problems, solutions differently based on their personality. And Mason's very structured, and he can almost step back and look at other people how they're approaching these things and comment on them, where other people need sort of process to improve themselves.
Right, and one of the things is I certainly don't agree with everything in the book, but and yet I am a person. I think I'm probably more like Mason than I am like a mindset coach, because I think I am wired more logically and more mathematically. And I think for Mason, I always feel like there's a disconnect that Mason doesn't quite have as much patience, I guess I'll say, for people who are sort of logical thinkers in that kind of way, and it's understandable, because the reason why he's been successful in poker is because of that logic. But sort of the more that I personally read about behavioral psychology, I sort of feel that there are a lot of people out there in the world who do need to take a different path. I liked your question about the process. Like, some people need to establish their routines, some people are more free flowing, and I guess Mason's central tenet in the book is that if you understand poker better, and you take the time to understand poker better, then you won't go on tilt, and you won't understand that. I'm not sure if that's true. I do certainly agree. Learning poker concepts is certainly that's step one by far with a bullet. Before we get into all of the psychology stuff, but I don't really know what all the psychology stuff is work, and I've always sort of maintain the idea whenever we think about this topic, is it's sort of like I said, like, what, even if you make an extra 0.1 BB 100, if you're playing big enough, then that's a big deal. Or if you can make that edge last for long enough, right? If you end up paying $50 or $100 to a mindset coach and something like that, you could easily get that ROI. But I understand how someone like him kind of looks at this industry and thinks, no, this is all bunk. It's all about, it's about math. It's about not playing King 10 offsuit under the gun 9-handed. It's not about whether you wake up with an affirmation of your player. It's not if you get a good night's sleep, or it's not if you have the kale smoothie instead of the Big Mac. And none of that stuff matters. It matters very little. Let's focus more about how you should play two pair when you're on the turn.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the other things I asked him about, and I agree with him in that you're almost always better off spending your time becoming a better poker player. Now,
until a certain point.
But where is that point? Like, that point is pretty far off in the it takes a lot to, in my opinion, it takes a lot to you've got to be a pretty darn good poker player before it becomes worth your time as far as not getting better as a person, because spending 2 hours in the gym is much more valuable outside of poker. But if we're talking strictly about how valuable it is to your poker game, I think you've got to be a pretty darn good poker player before that 2 hours isn't better off spending time studying poker rather than being in the gym. Now, where that point is, I don't know.
And I think this shows sort of my own bias, because I do hang around a lot of poker players who do spend an awful lot of time analyzing and thinking about poker. And then to them, there's much more value in, let's go for a 30-minute swim kind of before the tournament starts, because that makes their mind better, because they've done everything that they really can. Now,
well, if they have, that's fine. Then it becomes...
That's a very small minority of players. That's the main thing. They're sort of, I do kind of hang around sometimes with the top 0.1% of poker players, and if they've already got that stuff dialed down, if they've already done the math, and they're already examining their hand histories in their database, and they've already run ranges, and they've done all of the things that you're supposed to do, then they're going to get value. But yeah, for most people, obviously, you can have the best attitude in the world and get the best night of sleep ever and have the kale smoothie, but if you suck at poker, it's certainly not going to make you a winning player. And I think that's where Mason sort of, I guess takes issue with the new branch. But on the other hand, I do think there's some value. It's just much harder value to quantify once you've gotten to that point. And it could also be, one more point on this sort of thing, it could also be that a more positive mindset will be more willing to help you study poker. In other words, if you take care of your body, if you take care of your sleep, you might be more willing to study poker. You might be able to play longer sessions. I mean, I know that my fitness level helps me to, last a little bit longer in a long poker session when I'm doing better than that. So I'm built up on that.
And also when you are studying, you're actually getting something done. Like, your mind doesn't wander as much. Like, I know when I eat like shit, I feel like shit. And if I'm trying to work at the same time, I'm not as productive, I guess, when I'm not.
Right. The gut and the brain are very linked. I mean, that's if I've learned anything from sort of studying health and nutrition, fitness, blah 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 over the last few years, it's that the gut and the brain are a lot more linked than we think, and the stuff we eat controls our thoughts in ways that are kind of surprising.
Yeah, I mean, just adding on to that, you should do what makes you happy too, because if you're healthy and you're happy, then you're obviously going to make more rational decisions. If you sit in front of Poker Tracker and eat McDonald's, you might just be miserable, but you'll play decent poker.
Yeah, well, but we're trying to separate what makes you a better poker player versus, what makes you better in life, I guess is the discussion. It's a tough one because some people feel like they'd rather be a worse poker player, but better in life, and I think maybe the majority of people are like that. They'd much rather improve themselves personally and sacrifice a little bit of being a poker player. And
you'd be surprised. There's still some chainsaws out there for whom only poker matters.
That's all that matters. Yeah, indeed. Anyway, interesting discussion for sure. Thanks so much again to Mason, and the book is Real Poker Psychology. If you want to get Mason's take on all this stuff in detail, we just brushed over a little bit of it. Before we get to break, I want to just quick sports update. And T, you were right on top of this last show. But the mighty Bournemouth has taken down Manchester United, the storied franchise.
They're a big deal.
You know who Man United is. Bournemouth
they're a big deal.
Beat them 2-1 after beating Chelsea. We talked about the week before, and this weekend they took down West Brom. So 3 wins in a row. They're climbing the tables. This Pokercast karma is real. We're taking them to the promised land.
When are the soccer playoffs, or when do the games start to matter? Like,
the FA Cup is.
We get every week we get scores. I want to know when is it a do or die game? When do we ship all the trophies?
Well, maybe somebody out there can help us with exact dates and stuff. But it's coming up. We're fairly early in the season, but we'll get there.
That's all I want to know.
In the new year.
I want to know when we're playing the high stakes.
Also,
when we get into the table of this poker, this football.
I think that I'm near full power.
Yes, it's coming. So one more quick update is the Pokercast Fantasy Football League. We are now down to the final two teams. The semifinals, you recall, were this weekend. We talked about them last show. The last 2 weeks, it was Adam Heath, Double Entendres is the name of the team, was going up against That Pope, who lost to Adam. They had a pretty epic battle, and Pope forgot to dress Gronkowski for one of the weeks and ended up losing. I was playing Mr. Scott Wilson in the other semifinal. Week 1, he had me pretty good, but I staged a huge comeback in week 2 and then managed to take it down. So I'm now in the final with the Double Entendres, by also known as Adam Heath's team. So your host might just take down this whole fantasy football league. We'll see what happens. It could be fun. My team sucks.
That's correct.
My team's awful, but we'll see what happens. All right, coming up after the break, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. We've got some email. We've got some recorded voice messages and some voicemail. Some voicemail. Why do I keep saying that? I can't get that voicemail in my head, but we got some other fun stuff too. So coming up after the break, you're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. More right after this.
Tired of seeing your friends and family lose money at poker? This holiday season, do them a favor and get them the best gift poker money can buy, a subscription to Crush Live Poker. All you have to do is head over to crushlivepoker.com and click on subscribe. From there, press Gift This, and you can give the present of winning poker to anyone.
Attention everyone not named Alan Kessler. Have someone you would love to appear on the Pokercast? Have someone you don't want to hear again on the Pokercast? Head on over to the suggested guest thread in the Pokercast forum at 2plus2.com, and Adam will do his best to make you happy. P.S. Chainsaw, you can post too.
Hey, it's Mike from the 2plus2 store and ProfessionalPoker.com. 2plus2 is pleased to announce the release of their most anticipated book in ages, Applications of No Limit Hold'em, a guide to understanding theoretical sound poker by Matthew Jonda. This book will give you the ability to create the bet sizings and ranges which will beat the better players. The theory in this book is not designed to be complex or abstract, but rather it's intended to be applied immediately, producing better overall results. Many confusing concepts such as overbetting, balancing multiple bet sizing ranges, donk betting, and check raising as a pre-flop raiser are crucial to a player's strategy, despite few players implementing them or talking about them. And after reading this book, you should be able to not only conceptually understand these ideas, but also know how to begin incorporating them into your game, and thereby successfully compete against tough opponents. And at the 2plus2 store, we accept all credit cards, plus PayPal and NetTeller.
Under the Gun opens to 3x 200 big blinds deep. I defend my big blind with Queen Jack off with no spades. The flop comes Ace King 10 Rainbow with one spade, and it's a flop that favors the opener's range more than mine, and it's hard for me to check raise any semi-bluff, so I check call his C-bet for deception and to protect my range. The turn is an 8 putting a flush draw out there, and this time I check raise to set it up for a pot-sized river shove. The river is the worst card in the deck, another ace, and I check with the intention of folding to a shove, but he elects not to turn 10-8 into a bluff, even though it's a great candidate with the full house blockers, and I win the pot.
Team Pro Online's Mickey Memento Mori Peterson is a Supernova VIP. This is the 2plus2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club.
Candy, your peppermints is the truth. I'm pessimistic on Monday. If I had tweaked and missed you, you look so good with the hat on. Had to match with the shoes. Came in dressed in the satin. I came and sat in your pew. I come to Christmas for dinner. 50 rolls on my plate. Hella holes in my stocking, holding your pockets in place. I like my love with the budget. I like my hugs with a scent. You smell like light gas while the electricity rent. You sound like why the gospel choir got so tired. Singing this praise on a daily basis, so I gotta try it. You my dream catcher, dream team captain. Matter of fact, I ain't seen you in a minute. Let me take my butt to church. You better come on in this house. It's gonna rain. It's gonna rain. Rain down. It's gonna rain. You better come on in this house. It's gonna rain. It's gonna rain. Rain down. It's gonna rain.
Welcome back to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. Thanks to Mason for joining us, the captain of this here ship, joining us to talk about his new book and get into some of the different topics and stuff that he's got in there. Let's get to some PokerStars stuff. Matthew is still on vacation. PokerStars Matthew, who's joining us each and every week to bring us the news about the goings-on at the world's biggest poker site. I believe he's back in the new year, so we're just going to mention a quick couple things. First, the Invitational for PokerCast
These British
listeners.
corporations and their lengthy holidays,
Goes for
right?
a month on holiday. What a gig that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he probably had a couple of tough months before he took off.
Probably had some saved up.
The Invitational. This is the PokerCast PokerStars Invitational for PokerCast listeners. Roscoe, we had an issue last Sunday. The Invitational did not happen.
I sent in the email on I think it was Thursday, and then
people are on
maybe
vacation.
they missed it. I don't know. I have the draft. I mean, I have the sent mail.
You don't have to prove it.
I have proof.
No problem. I believe you.
Screenshots required.
Screenshots. I have them. I even sent smiley faces.
The whole bit?
Yeah.
Oh, that might have been the issue.
I said happy holidays, you know.
Yeah, they'll get it when they get back from holidays.
Didn't offend anybody with the Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
Happy end of year.
Happy holidays. So we didn't get an invitational last week. So what we'll do, and we usually do 2 weeks in advance. We haven't announced the format and password for the upcoming December 27th invitational. So we'll do that now. It is Deuce to 7 single draw is going to be the December 27th event. The password is going to be Jamie Staples, the newest member of Team Online. Jamie Staples, all lowercase, all one word. Hopefully you know how to spell Jamie. Ross had a little bit of trouble with that the first time.
J-A-I.
J-A-I. Jamie Staples is the password for this upcoming December 27th Invitational. The January 3rd, Sunday, January 3rd version of this fine tournament is going to be Stud High Low.
Which is what it should have been last Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to carry it over and use it on January 3rd. The password, you've picked New Year for the password. Very very nice for January 3rd. I like it.
I reached out to Jamie to see if he wanted to play the tournament with his name as the password on his stream. But
on the
he
stream.
said he's going to be on vacation.
Oh, another guy on vacation.
Keep big time to you.
December 27th. So hopefully maybe in the new year, Jamie can play the Invitational on the stream, and we'll get some people, get a big prize pool for that. That would be awesome. Also on December 27th, not only the PokerCast Invitational, we are going to have at PokerStars a $5 million guaranteed Sunday Million. This is part of the December festival. Of course, it's been going on. This is amazing. $5 million guaranteed for a $200 buy-in tournament. The guaranteed $1 million for first prize. First prize is pretty fantastic. Or I don't know if is it guaranteed. Yeah, it's a guaranteed $5 million pool. So first prize is gonna be $1 million. I think that's right. I shouldn't say that they're guaranteed. I'm not 100% sure. It is $5 million guaranteed
I think
prize.
It's a little flatter than that.
It's flatter than that.
Yeah. You might not be wrong. Like you might only be wrong about the guaranteed part because it still might make $1 million anyway.
Yeah, I might have screwed that. But the $5 million is guaranteed, which is crazy for a $200 tournament.
So, and that's how we should do. We talked, remember, in the first segment about the Colossus and they're doing the obnoxious $1 million guaranteed first place thing, but not guaranteeing the full prize pool. Stars doing it right.
They're guaranteeing
the prize pool, and then hopefully you just get a monster first prize.
Yeah,
indeed. So check that out on December 27th. Add it to your grind. Add us to your grind to get into that. What should we go to now, T? What about some listener voicemails? Should we get into that?
Yeah.
All right.
Why don't we do that? So this is the listener voicemail set up we copied somebody. I'm not going to lie, but we're gonna have a voicemail line for anybody who wants to call in and leave a voicemail for the show, question, anecdote, hand history, whatever you would like. Comment on the show, anything. Please use it. Phone us and leave a message. Roscoe, what's the phone number?
The phone number is
+1
+1-702-799-9949
799-9949 area code 702 in
a lot of nines.
Las Vegas. Give us a call. All right, so let's get to voicemail number 1.
Okay, voicemail number 1.
Hi, guys. This is Tim. Great to be on the show. Listen, fellas, get to work. Where's the damn podcast?
Nice. So we were going to do the show last Thursday or Friday. Terrence, you went on vacation where you are now and weren't available to do the show. We were trying to find a co-host to step in for you, so give you a week off. And it was tough. A lot of people were spending time with family, etc. So we ended up tracking down Joe Stapleton was going to step in and do it, but he ended up going out. I think he was in Prague, so he went out and had a fun night and was not available to do the show, or we didn't get in contact with him, so it didn't work out. But we will have Stapes on next time T needs a week off, and we'll bring him in then.
We are very unprofessional.
Nice. So, all right. Do you want to get to
the next one?
Voicemail number 2.
This is Doug Pavick calling from just north of St. Cloud right now, doing my travels between TRF and AP, Minnesota. The first thing, mostly, for PokerStars to expand their poker base is they got to open up their registrations to the U.S., not in the sense of allowing them play, but for those of us who live within 72 miles of Canada, to be able to set up an account, put money on the account, and to be able to go up across the border and play without having the restrictions of, having to have a post office, having to have everything within the Canadian border or a foreign nation. That would open us up, first and foremost. And then the second thing is to figure out a way of getting it so that everybody in the U.S. can play, and promoting that instead of just New York, New Jersey, California, and Nevada. That's pretty much it. Those are my 2 things. You guys are doing great. I'm approximately 5,000-something kilometers from Kells right now. Have a great day.
Interesting idea from Doug. I don't know that it's possible, T, to do the banking. So that's going to be the issue, right? So right now...
Right. The registration, a lot of that stuff is conceivably manageable. I mean, like being able to set people's accounts up from anywhere, that seems like a possibility. I don't know whether the DOJ or whoever would have a big problem with that. Like, I know when we ran Ultimate Poker, like, we made a big point of you can set up your account from anywhere. You just have to be in Nevada when you play. I don't know if Stars can do a similar thing, but probably. But I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't want to speculate on that. But yeah, the banking stuff is always going to be tricky, and the getting a mailing address is always going to be tricky, because what they're always going to put pressure on Stars for is they're always going to want them for some proof that these people live not in the U.S., right? That's going to be the thing, I think, for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you do live within 70 miles of Canada and you're willing to drive up there and play, I mean, it can't be too hard to get a PO box and a bank account if you're going to go through all that to go play once in a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure the PO box is considered a valid.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, actually. I shouldn't say that.
But the bank account is obviously necessary for you to be able to get money in and out. And if you go on 2+2, you see a bunch of threads about, I had a hard time opening an account with this bank, or I had an account with that bank, or these people gave me an issue, or whatever. So I you definitely understand the friction points there. Like, people aren't going to go to that much effort to do it. But I mean, if you're willing to drive over the border to play poker, you're probably going to be willing to set all this stuff up.
Yeah. So, I mean, and as far as the rest of the U.S., I don't think there's anybody that wants to do that more than PokerStars. So they are working as hard as they can to get.
And I also don't know of anybody that covers this stuff for a living. The people like the Chris Groves of the world who think that that's in any way a reasonable possibility to have the entire country unified in being able to play.
Will that ever happen?
I mean, it would be just having California and New Jersey and Nevada together would be a big coup, much less like, actually like 20
Utah?
or 30 or 40 states.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So that is.
We got more.
Voicemail number 2. Let's. I was gonna go to voicemail number 3.
Hey guys, my name is Adam, and I'm calling from Littleton, Colorado. I have a question about mathematics and probability. I was hoping you guys could shed some light on it. So my question is set up like this. If you're playing a game, whether it be Hold'em or Omaha, and let's say that there's a 20% chance of the cards you need to come on the turn, and again, the 20% chance of the turn cards you need to come on the river, what is the chance that that event will happen given those two events being independent events? I've looked it up. I've tried to figure it out online. I know it's pretty basic, and I'm sure Terrence has a pretty good answer for it. But when I looked it up online, it didn't seem to make sense to me to multiply 0.2 by 0.2. The chance would be less than a 20% chance, and surely if it's a 20% chance on the turn and a 20% chance on the river, it's a greater than a 20% chance that there, whatever, 0.4%, 0.04% chance that event's going to happen. Thanks for the help.
Thanks, Adam, for that question. First of all, I want to say I'm offended. Go right to Terrence like I'm an idiot. Don't know anything. Or Ross. You don't know anything either, Ross? You don't know anything about probability?
I'm not great at
no, I'm kidding.
I know the basics.
I'm going to guess, T, and see if I can get this right. Obviously, you don't multiply them because that's, like you said, lower chance of it coming when it's actually a greater chance. I think the answer is like 41 or 42%. Like you add them, but the second time when you're adding it, it's actually a little bit better because there's card removal. You didn't hit on the first one, so there's the cards richer in your cards, etc. Is that right, T?
Sort of. I won't quite give you a buzzer because I wanted to give you a buzzer. I wanted to.
You wanted to buzz me?
It's well. Yeah. Do we have one that's like toned down slightly? It's not quite.
I'm close, right? I'm close.
Yeah, well, okay, so a couple of things that Adam seems to be a bit confused on. He mentioned independent events, 20% to come on turn. It's not independent events, yeah. Right? Because if you do, let's say it's 20% to hit your card on the turn and you miss on the turn, it will be more than 20% to come on the river because, you just mentioned, card removal. So I guess because the question's not that clear, I guess I'll answer sort of two different questions. If they were independent events, so let's say you have a 20% chance of overtaking this hand on the turn and also a 20% chance of coming on the river, there's not really a situation when this would happen, but let's pretend. The way that you would come to whether you're likely to outdraw this hand is to actually take the reverse, take what's not going to happen, right? So if something's 20% to happen, by definition, it means there's an 80% chance that it won't happen, right?
Sure.
Because the chances have to add up to 100%. So if it's 20% to come on the turn, the other way to think of it is thinking of it, it's 80% not to come on the turn, and it's 80% not to come on the river. And the way that you arrive at the probability, so instead of thinking of the probability of hitting your draw, think of the probability of missing your draw twice. Okay, so that would be 80% times 80%, which is 64%. 0.8 times 0.8 is 0.64.
Okay.
And so if your chances of not hitting it are 64%, what are your chances of hitting it?
36.
36. 100 minus 64, or 36%. So that's the way to come to the correct answer for that question. So it's a little bit less than just adding them up both together. Another way to think about
that's
this...
That's if it's independent.
That's if they're independent. So one good way to think about this is say, an NBA player goes to the free throw line and he shoots 80%, right? What's his chances that he's going to brick them both, or what's his chances that he's going to make 2 of 2, right? So that's the way.
Yeah.
That's the way, if he's an 80% free throw shooter, he'll make them both 64% of the time.
But probably not independent there. I feel like
they've actually studied this and. It's pretty darn close to independent.
I always feel like if the guy misses the first one, he's better than his percentage making the second one.
Well, it does feel that way, but I mean, I think most of the academic study that's been around that shows that things like free throws and even shots, even field goals, tend to be pretty independent. Kind of dispelling the hot hand theory. If some guy's 10 for 10, you got to give him the ball because he's more likely or whatever because he's on a hot streak. I think most of that stuff is generally be considered to be debunked. But it's sort of the closest thing I can think about it. Or because there's not. I wish there was a coin that's 80% likely to show up. There doesn't exist that kind of coin, but let's say a 10-sided dice. If you wanted to draw a 2 or a 1 twice, that's the way to think of it.
Okay.
But the more kind of correct thing is it is a card removal thing. So like, let's say what's 20%? It's it's a flush draw is about 20% with one card to come, right? And whenever you're drawing at a flush in Hold'em, on the turn you've got 4 cards to a flush, which means there's 13 cards in a suit and there's 9 cards remaining, and then you've got to discount the 5 cards that you've already seen, right? So you've got a 9 in 47 chance of making the flush on the turn, but when you miss, you've got not a 9 out of 47 chance of making it on the river, but it's actually a 9 in 46 chance,
right?
Because you get to take out the turn card. So all you have to do is multiply 9 over 47 times 9 over 46, and that'll give you the percentage of bricking twice, and then you minus that out of 100%, and I don't have that exactly in front of me, but
that's how you figure it out.
Like, yeah, there's your homework for this week, Adam. Call me back next week and let me know if you figured that out or if we need to
show your work.
It's like what is it called in college when you TA hours or whatever, office hours.
Yeah.
It's office hours.
Lab hours.
Yes, lab hours.
Lab work. All right, so that's going to do it for our taped messages.
I actually
to the
have
show.
one more.
Oh, you have one?
Yeah.
We have 4?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Hey guys, my name is Ivan Zarati. I'm a mid-stakes poker pro. I'm calling right now from Rhode Island, but I move a lot.
This one's good.
Anyway, I just wanted to congratulate you guys and say that I'm a big fan, and thanks for what you guys do for the poker community. Before I go, I just wanted to say how I judge you guys before by only your by the sound of your voice, how I imagine how you guys look. So here it goes. Please don't get mad. Adam, I thought you looked like, I don't know, a 6'3", 6'4" guy, kind of skinny with a big beard.
Oh my God.
I don't know why, but you just had a beard in my head. Ross, please don't get mad, man. I imagine you like a 18, 19-year-old kid with a bunch of pimples, like, just barely hitting puberty. And
so he's right.
But like super smart with like computers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
super right.
You didn't know what to do, and you were looking for poker as an outlet. I don't know why I imagined you like that, but yeah. And Terrence, I imagine you like a 6'1", Bruce Lee, like kind of ripped, and not really the poker player look. You just seem like, I don't know, like a complete badass, I guess. But yeah. I looked at your guys' Twitter handles and pictures, and man, that was way off. Like, not even close to any of you guys. So, yeah, keep it up with the good work at the Pokercast, and you guys are awesome. Keep it up, guys. Thank you.
So that's Ivan. That's hilarious. Because, we all listen to a lot of podcasts, right? I don't know what most of the people I listen to look like at all. I've never... you have this image in your mind. You build an image in your mind of people that you've listened to for quite some time.
There's no reason to like Google image, Ira Glass or whoever you listen to on podcast, or Sarah Koenig or whoever you have,
right.
or us, really. Like, there's no
Dan
reason.
Carlin.
Yeah, exactly. I had that discussion with my girlfriend, like, what does Dan Carlin look like? And she did the exact same thing that Ivan just did, with like painting a mental image, and then like, all right, let's unveil Dan Carlin. So, whoa, actually, yeah, Dan Carlin is actually close to what.
Okay, let me guess what Dan Carlin. I got Dan Carlin.
Okay. Oh, you don't know what Dan Carlin looks like?
No, I have no idea. I got him maybe like 5'11", 225, beard, older guy, balding.
Well, I mean, you can't tell how big somebody is when you Google image somebody, and he's wearing a hat in every picture, so he might be right about the balding, but he's definitely not 225. He's not a fat guy or a big muscular guy or anything, but he's a really average looking dude, actually. He seems to be just as tall as Joe Rogan in this picture.
Oh, that's fairly tall.
I think Joe Rogan's like 5'10" or something like that. So
okay, I'm totally off.
Seems to be about right. I always think like Ira Glass is like super nerdy. Maybe like male pattern baldness with glasses or something like that. But I really don't know what Ira Glass looks like.
Well,
either. Let me Google that up.
I got Ira Glass as a glasses wearing dude, thin.
That's correct.
Probably 5. I got him at about 6 feet. I got him fairly tall and thin, kind of maybe a beard.
No beard.
No beard.
Yeah. No beard, but he looks pretty darn close. But he's got like kind of hipster, nerdy sunglasses, glasses, regular glasses.
Yeah.
But what you'd expect.
I usually look at the Twitters of most of the people that I listen to. So
Ivan did that.
I do think it's kind of funny that Ivan thought that Adam is 6'3" and I'm 6'1". Neither we're both not even anywhere near the ballpark of that one. But Ross is the tall one. How tall are you, Ross?
I'm like 6'4", 5".
Tall dude.
Depending on the shoes.
Ross is tall, but no, Ross is.
My voice
Ross
is higher apparently.
Adam and I are super tall, which Adam and I have had short guy syndrome for a while. Well, Adam's not short. I'm short.
You guys have the tall voice boxes apparently.
He got my beard right. I will say that.
You don't have a big beard though.
No, it's kind of a hipster beard.
He also thought you were skinny. Didn't he say you were skinny?
Ouch. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, by the way, T's mic went out there, so we've got him on laptop microphone now. If it sounds a little different for the rest of the show, we'll be on that for the rest of the way. So, T, that's going to do it for our voicemails. Do you want to get into the regular mail?
Sure, why not? I love doing mailbag.
Why don't we do the mailbag?
I've been dying to talk to you about mail.
And now.
That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
Mailbag.
Mailbag.
Email number 1.
Addison writes, I've been listening to the show for many years, but have not felt compelled to write until now. I'm 29. I've been playing poker since I was 18. When I was younger, I played a lot of poker with big dreams of the high-stakes lifestyle, but spent my time during the glory days of poker aimlessly drinking and goofing off, not focusing on the game. If I could go back in time and force myself to buckle down and work, I would. But instead, I played casually and used the improper bankroll management of a careless 21-year-old. After a few years off, I've rededicated my focus on poker with less lofty goals. I'm married and have a 3-month-old son and rediscovered a passion for poker. Over the past year, I've spent a lot of time playing and studying the game, then more time playing and studying as I switched from No Limit Hold'em to PLO. I've ground my $50 deposit into just under $1,000. I hear constantly about the poor state of online poker and that it's a terrible industry for anyone to get into, and I can't tell if that applies to me. I'm no longer looking to get rich, much more interested in doing something I love and am passionate about for a living. I currently make $30,000 a year at my job, and between my wife and I, we're doing just fine, saving for a house and living comfortably. Doing a little math with rose-colored glasses on, if I could study. But first of all, I love poker players always do math, right? They always like, okay, I'm going to extrapolate this out to what I'm going to make every year. But anyway, sorry.
Of course.
If I could study to the point that I could beat 1-2 PLO for 3 big blinds per 100.
The most you can bet or raise is the size of a pot.
Played a pretty easily obtainable 750K hands. I played 650K this year, working 40 hours a week. Hands in here, that would be make $45,000 before rakeback. That would be more than enough for me to live comfortable, flexible lifestyle that would allow me to be around, drop off my son at school in the morning, and pick him up when he's done. Hope to build a 50K, not including bankroll, and have a win rate of at least 3 big blinds per 100 over 200K hands within the next 3 years, so I can quit my job and play for a living. Is this goal attainable, or is even is even the most modest poker dream really dead? Thanks so much for all the years of great shows. P.S. Even a microgrinder like me knows to fold King Queen 9-8 to an under gun raise 9-handed game. Love it. Love the shot there, Addison. Okay, T, go.
Okay. I guess Addison's question is largely, does all the doom and gloom about online poker also apply to me? And he gives some numbers that indicate he's been doing quite well. So if you can beat 1-2 PLO for 3 big blinds 100 and play $750,000 a year, he's saying that's $45,000 before rakeback, so a little bit better. That's pretty good. I mean, it's not great.
It's really good for playing online in a tough environment.
Exactly. No, I mean, in a poker sense, that means he's a good player, and he's definitely in the top percent or so of people playing. The question is it better than the alternative, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're 29 years old, I think you're still at a point where you can definitely build a career. if he hates his job and he just thinks like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore, and I love poker so much, and I really want the freedom, then it's great. If he played 650,000 hands with a full-time job. Playing only 750,000 hands means he's going to be working as a full-time poker pro. Means he's going to be working way less. And I am always an advocate of people working less hours and spending more time with their family. He's got a wife, he's got a kid. Absolutely, that's great. I mean, that's fundamentally your poker lifestyle, Adam.
Sure.
You've been doing this. You don't make as much money, and it's not the most important thing. But you want to be able to spend time with your family. I think that's very admirable. That's very good. But I think there's also the other sort of, not just the dollars and cents. You talked about extrapolating into the math. It's not just about your salary. First of all, medical expenses, right? So especially, if a lot of your company, is going to pay for medical expenses. Maybe you live in a country where everything medical is free. Maybe, but there are benefits to generally having a job. There's pension plans, there's all of these kind of things. There are other benefits of having a job sometimes. On the other hand, maybe you live in a country where you don't have to pay any tax on poker earnings, and then like your 45K is like making 70K at a different job because the taxes are higher. Like I know that's the case for some people in the UK. But it's important to think about more than just the I make this many dollars at my job and I make this many dollars playing poker. And the thing to me that gets me about this one is that online poker is in a state of decline for poker pros. I don't think there's any way about it. Now, does that mean he can't make a decent living for the next couple of years? Absolutely not. I think he could. But the question is he better off doing that than having something else? If you're 29 years old, you've got some upward mobility in the world, right? Like you can get if you get a job, you have a chance to work your way up, and eventually, we've got poker pros who were very successful high stakes poker pros. So I think of someone like Jason Strasser, who I interviewed in my podcast ages ago. He was killing it at the high stakes, but now he owns his own hedge fund company. Okay, like that's a different level of success.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, would you want to be the really successful, darn good high stakes player, or do you want to own a hedge fund company?
Not that Addison, is going to be starting a hedge fund anytime soon. But I agree with your point.
I'm just saying there's a world outside of poker when you have a lot more upward mobility.
Absolutely.
In the poker world, right? You develop skills, and those skills come in demand. Like if you're a really good coder, you can make money in San Francisco for a lot more money than you're probably going to make playing poker for the vast majority of people. And you just don't get that skill development in poker because the only way you become upwardly mobile in poker is by playing bigger.
Yeah.
Right. And
how do you make that much money landscaping?
Well, what I would say is that there's not a ton of security. And when you have a 3-month-old son and you have responsibilities in life, it's not just you. If things go bad for whatever reason, you run bad, your bankroll management isn't good enough, you tilt. I'm not saying he's going to do this, but I'm saying there's a whole lot of things that can go wrong. Not the least of which being the online poker community, the online poker industry. Yes, we hope it'll continue along and get better as the years go on, but that's not a given. And now if your main concern is to be spending time with your wife and kid, and now you got to spend 10 hours in a casino because you're getting older and it's maybe too late to be a lawyer at this point, and et cetera, then you're going to look back and say maybe, did I make the right choice? So I would say, and it's interesting because Daniel Negreanu, actually, his question of the day was today, if your 16-year-old child said they wanted to be a pro poker player, would you encourage or discourage them? Now, Addison's older than 16, but I think the point still stands. I think poker, and this is my answer to Daniel on Twitter, I basically said no, not a chance. But poker is an excellent hobby, but not a great profession for 99.9% of poker players. For some, it's an excellent profession, but for 99% of them, it's not. It's a great hobby, bad profession is my point.
Yeah, and your point is that you really just if you're going play poker for a living, you're very much going all in without a safety net. Because like you said, like maybe you're too old to be really mobile, and it's another thing is it's hard to get out of the lifestyle too. It's hard to get work, being your own boss, and all of these setting your own hours and all. It's so nice to be a poker pro that sometimes it's hard to escape back into the real world. Now, I definitely don't want to discourage going and playing poker for a living simply because of that, because I don't believe that just because you shouldn't turn a positive thing into a negative thing. But there is to me just that factor. You bring out a really good point with having a kid, and if you're the breadwinner, or even if you're just half of the breadwinners in the household, it is a lot of extra stress. And that can affect your poker game. I mean, I'd like to get Mason's opinion. I have Mason back on the show, call him back and see whether family life and stress. But I think I would say you're the one with a family and kid. I think you would agree that probably at times, and I know this other poker players have expressed this to me. It is different and it is tougher when you're playing with mouths to feed other than your own. For my entire poker career, if I went broke and I lost all my money, well, it was on me. There was nobody. I wasn't harming anybody else, and I was okay playing big and playing high stakes. And when I lost, I got mad, but I was never, in any position that I would be destitute, and I certainly was never in any position where I'd be harming other people if I lost a bunch of money playing poker. And I think, one of the things that Addison has to think about is can he go through a really bad, 2.5 month losing streak where, is there where he's expected to pay the rent and put food on the table for his kid and all of this stuff. And it's a huge decision to think about. I don't want to discourage it too much because, if you love playing poker and you think you can definitely do that, and you're fine with the $45,000 a year before a rakeback, and you think you can make that work, then I'm definitely not the guy to say no. You shouldn't pursue this lifestyle, because it is a great lifestyle. I mean, there's no better lifestyle than the online poker player lifestyle, because it is just the best to have those flexible hours and to work only when you want to. It's a blessing for sure.
Email number 2.
Tobias, hey guys. First of all, thanks for a great show. You guys deliver week in, week out. I can't even imagine how hard it is to deliver a 3-hour show each week. I work nights in Sweden, and the 3 hours I listen to you guys just flies by. Now on to my question. I've been playing micro low stakes for about 7 years now, and then I play 6-max sit and go. So I've been thinking about starting to play MTTs with a bigger buy-in to try my skill level against the better field. I'm thinking about playing the Sunday Million on the 27th of December. What I'm wondering now is it worth buying a HUD, or should I just wait until PokerStars gets rid of HUDs and then start playing MTTs? I really want to play the $5 million guaranteed as well, so I don't want to wait. I just feel like I won't have the same advantage if I don't have the same tools as other players. What do you think?
Me?
Yeah.
You?
T, go.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. I didn't know I was the go-to guy. I think you should play. I think it's almost to a point now where we've talked about HUDs so much that people who don't have them think they're sort of drawing dead if they don't have them, which is not true at all. I think especially when you're talking about a 30,000 player $200 buy-in.
Exactly.
Tournament, where you're not going to get seated all the time with these people that you play with all the time and all the regs. It's just not a big deal. You should play it because it's a gigantic prize pool. There will probably be a lot of weak players in the field. If that's the one you want to play, certainly HUD should not be the reason that you don't play a tournament. I don't see that.
That's going to be the softest tournament in a long time. If you're playing the Super Tuesday
at that price point, yeah, the $200 price point for sure.
It's going to be so soft. Yeah, no, you absolutely should play that. And as Terrence said, there's going to be so many people in there that I wouldn't worry too much about it. All right.
Email number 3.
Reno Doc, our buddy Steve Friedlander writes in, shout out to longtime listener Mark Feinberg of San Diego. He's known as the Burrito Man and failed to make the playoffs in my longtime fantasy league, but he got a shout out on the Pokercast.
Burrito Man.
Burrito Man, nice. All right.
Do we get sent burritos for this?
For that shout out? We get paid in burritos? Okay. All right.
Email number
004. Hit my Jones up on the low.
That's my favorite. I just want to make it to email.
You say that every week.
Number 4 every week. Matt, been listening for a few years now, and I love the show. By far my favorite podcast. Love the dynamic you guys have, and also think you've done an amazing job of documenting the history of poker, and shouldn't underestimate this service to the game. Good. We'll be looking forward to our Poker Hall of Fame nomination sometime soon.
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to play this for Mason.
Internet poker.
I don't think he would have understood what was going on.
Terrence, didn't a fighter walk out to that song?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that UFC card. I heard it and I was like, somebody's walking out to this song. I'm like, first of all, I didn't actually listen to it. So Rob is watching the fights with me, and she goes, "This song is terrible." and then I never really listened to the walkout songs a lot of time, and I'm like listening. I'm like, I know this song. What is this song? I know this song. Oh my god! Yeah, somebody actually came out to the original non-computer generated dub voice, and I ran over to Skype to tell you guys. I was like, somebody's coming out to the Improv song. And I think Ross, you said like he's gonna get knocked out, and it turns out he actually like knocked the other dude out in like 3 minutes. So
turns out music
that having good taste in music doesn't have anything to do with your fighting skill.
That makes sense. Back to Matt's email. I also listened to the EPT Not Live podcast, and they had a good idea of handing out prizes for good reviews on iTunes. I thought you could just steal this, like the phone thing, but rather than offering out some crap you have to post, how about an hour of Skype poker coaching from the host of your choice? I think a lot of people would really go for this. Anyway, I've already put mine up under the name of Matt Udders, so please include me in the draw if you do this.
1, 2, 3, not it.
It says of their choice, not of our choice. If somebody wants Omaha Hilo split
under
coaching,
the gun you don't raise, you limp in there.
like gems like that, then you're set. Do we have any reviews, by the way? How's our plea for podcast?
We have lots of reviews, but I found one 1-star one that I want.
He gives us a 1-star?
Oh, I found one, but
does he? Do we read?
I can
the
probably
1-stars?
guess who did that in the forum. Every other review is 5 stars.
All right. So we're getting lots since
you out there in listener land can decide which reviewer you want to be like.
Do you want to be that good?
What did he say his name was?
Who? Sorry, it is Matt, and it's Matt Udders.
Oh,
find his. He did review us.
I do like the idea of
that's a good idea.
While Ross is looking it up, of giving up gifts. I don't know if it's. I don't think anybody.
An hour is a long time.
I just don't think anybody needs poker advice from us. I feel like you can. There's so many better places to go. Go get an hour from Bart Hanson.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can give away a Crush Live Poker subscription.
There are a lot more people who know what they're doing.
It's a good idea.
I cannot find Matt's,
All
but
right,
the most recent review we have is you guys are doing a great job. Terrence is a great addition to the team. Roscoe's drops take the show to a whole new
that's why you
level.
Nice.
That's
correct.
All right.
That was totally not a plan.
It was the most recent review, and I agree.
All right. That's going to do it for the emails for the week. Why don't we get to the Roscoe report?
Okay.
Good old Roscoe. Sure glad he's all right.
Listen, boy, you gotta pick your spots good. You gotta make hay while the sun shines. Hey, good. You dipstick!
It's time for a Roscoe report.
All right.
Roscoe report for the week. You played lots of live poker this week?
I have been grinding.
All right. Give us a couple of fun hands.
Oh, God. Yeah, this hand was not fun.
Okay.
So
Well, it was fun for somebody, I'm sure.
That's a spoiler alert, by the way.
I'm sure it was fun for somebody.
Okay, so I'm on the button, and I have the wonderful 6, 7, 8, 9 double suited.
Oh, what a lovely hand!
What a lovely hand!
You got a lot of money?
I have 1,400.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been grinding it up. So under the gun is a definite newbie. I've seen him, get really married to high pairs on wet boards.
I wasn't ever at the casino. It couldn't have been me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So he's moved to my table. He has about 1,000. And he raises to 15. There's 2 calls in between, and I decide to 3-bet this hand.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you have the dream run. Well, one of the dream rundown hands, obviously, and you want to balance. This is you balancing your raising range, right? Saying every time I raise, I don't always have aces in this spot. I've got to have some other hands. So while this is a hand that you want to have as many people in the pot as you can, right? Or generally, that. But there's also a case because you have 2 small flush draws that you want to squeeze out some of the medium strength flush draws as well. But so.
But it's awesome. I mean, this guy's definitely in the category of guy who would ship his whole stack in on a 6-7 deuce flop.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. But you're opening yourself up to getting squeezed, right? So by raising.
So what? You can. I feel like even if somehow all your money ends up in the middle, it's like, well, that's not ideal, but you're still like 45% to win against aces. So.
Yeah. No, I don't hate. I'm just saying.
This hand particularly, I did some math after this pot, and if this guy doesn't have my aces covered, I mean, if his aces.
Wait, don't spoil the hand though.
No, I know, but I'm just saying if his aces don't have my suits covered.
Yeah.
This hand is 49.5%.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Which double suited rundowns are against aces.
Yeah.
Typically. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about the decision.
Oh yeah. It was
because I can hear a lot of people saying, "Why would you 3-bet? Why don't you just flat there and let as many people in as you can?"
I don't hear a lot of people saying that. Okay. I feel like this 3-bet is okay with the vast majority of people who play PLO.
Okay.
Yeah. So I 3-bet to 105, and he repots to 350. So I have him squarely on aces. So I call the 350. Now there's 700 in the pot. The flop is King 10-4, so not ideal. The 10 of spades and the 4 of diamonds.
So, well, the point of 3-betting him there, like Terrence was saying, your equities run really close with a hand like that. He opens the door. Did you think about chipping at that point?
Shipping pre-flop?
Yeah, after
no.
the 350.
No. Definitely
not.
I
don't think
I'm on the button
because you have position exactly.
I'm not going to get it in with a clear equity disadvantage.
Your position and his hand is way more face up than yours is.
Yeah, but there's a lot of bad flops for you.
Yeah, but I mean he's never folding aces and then just gambling. I can get into a lot more profitable situations. So King 10-4. He bets 150 into
So it's King 10-4, you have
734.
2 backdoor flush draws, right?
I have 2 backdoor flush draws and 2 backdoor wraps.
Yeah. He bets 150.
So basically any card between a 10 and a 4 is great for my hand. Well,
9's not great for your hand.
A 9 still gives me a wrap.
9 does?
Yeah.
What do you have? 6, 7, 8, 9?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
It gives him the bottom end of the...
Okay, so he bets 150 into 735?
Yeah.
That's really weird.
So we can talk about this now, I guess, but this is probably where I should have just shipped it in because that's a really scared bet. Because I think he thinks I have kings.
Okay.
Right. So he's testing you with aces. I mean, that's, obviously he has aces most of the time, but I mean, betting 150, I mean, this is a hand you could maybe do it with like ace, king, king. I mean,
yeah, it's just to induce, but yeah. So I'm getting what
you have to call. 150 and 735.
You kind of have to peel. If he'd bet anything substantial, you're just going to call.
Yeah, so he bet really small. So I called, and I got the super card on the turn, which is the 5 of diamonds. So I've wrap and a flush draw.
Full wrap and a flush draw. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes all in, and I call, and the river was the queen of diamonds, but he actually had ace. I think he had ace 9-5 with 2 diamonds. So
he made a flush, bigger flush than you. And you
but when I ran it afterwards, even with this suit being covered, I still have like 27%. So I'm getting over 4-1 at this point. So it's still just basically plays itself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to play this hand, I think. I don't hate really anything that you did. I don't disagree with anything.
Although, yeah, I mean, after you double some guy up, you're like, oh, probably should have just called that hand, but
yeah,
it could have turned
interesting pot anyway. Interesting hand.
Differently.
All right, hand number 2.
Hand number 2, I was planning to go home. I'd just been like grinding for 10 hours or something and not having a ton of success, but I got into this hand where I was under the gun. The guy on my right was just crazy, like playing like 90% of hands. And he straddles. So I get dealt the King Queen 10-9.
Better than the 8-9.
A little bit better, yeah. Double suited.
Okay.
So I raised to 30 because it's 10 under the gun.
And you apologize?
2005 Adam.
Under the gun, you don't raise. You limp in there.
Okay. I suppose I could have done that, but so I raised to 30, and it actually folds all the way back around to the straddler, who is never folding.
And he has you covered.
He has me covered, and he calls. So the flop is 10 of clubs, 5 of spades, 6 of hearts.
Okay, so you flop top pair.
Top pair, yeah.
And backdoor flush draw?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, you have King Queen 10-9, flop 10-6-5, rainbow.
I have the King 9 of clubs.
King 9 of clubs, okay.
So
he checks?
He checks, and I bet half pot, and he calls. The turn is a beautiful jack of clubs, giving me the wrap and flush draw.
Okay.
So he checks, I bet 65, and he calls again. The river is the 3 of clubs, bringing me the king high flush. The pot is 250. I figured I could just bet is a ton, and he's gonna
get called by worse.
I could get called by worse a lot, so I bet 225, and he snap calls.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I like every street. I think you can make a case for checking the flop, but I don't think that's a big deal.
I think you got enough to bet there. Yeah.
I'm just
thinking
saying,
maybe checking too many flops. I play the hand the same.
Yeah, I think I do too. I'm just saying I think that's somewhat close-ish decision on the flop.
Yeah.
On
the turn,
what are you going to do if he raises? I guess the river is the question.
If I get raised on the flop,
no, on the river. When you bet
if I get raised on the river, I mean, I've never seen him check raise a river, so I wasn't.
I don't think that many people are going to like dry ace check raise shove the river there.
That would be it would be really gross. But this guy was so sick that like he could possibly do that. Like he was sort of thinking and sort of not thinking. So I mean, yeah, if that happened, I would probably like puke fold, I guess. But yeah, he snap called and he had I think like a jack high flush or something.
Nice. Yeah. No. Yeah. Pretty good result there. All right. Hand number 3.
So this is a really weird bunch of live stuff happened in this hand. So I'm on the button and I have King 8-3. So 2 passive players limp to me. Now there's this old guy on my left. And he's really grumpy because he just got like very moderately slow rolled by a newbie, and he's like so mad, and he's just sitting there like clutching his last $30 in chips.
He has $30 left?
Yeah, he has $30.
Okay.
And so it limps to me, and I'm like, if I limp here, this guy
guy's raising.
Old guy can raise, and then the other 2 guys can call.
I like it. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. So I limp, and then he just like unclutches his hand and throws in $5.
No, bastard.
So then the big blind comes along, and
so it's what, 4-handed, 5-handed,
5-handed.
5-handed.
The flop is 3-5-3.
3-5-3.
So
you have King 8-3.
Yeah.
Trips.
So I flop trips. So it checks around to me. I bet 15. The big blind and the first player, the under the gun or middle position, they both call. So the turn is
This game is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, it was a fun table.
That's all I'm going to say.
So the turn's the 6.
6 of clubs.
6 of clubs. It brings a flush draw. The pot's 70, and it checks around because obviously they're calling with straight draws.
Yeah.
So it checks around to me. The river is an ace of clubs, which brings in the flush.
Backdoor flush.
So it checks around to me again, and I'm thinking for a second, like maybe I can bluff at this pot. And the first guy in the big blind goes, I have a straight. And the other guy doesn't really do anything. So I'm like, well, now if I bet, like I obviously can beat a straight in this spot. So I lead out for 50 immediately.
I love it. That's fantastic.
No, this is great.
And then, so he snap folds because he's like, "Oh, you've got it."
Yeah.
And the other guy's like staring at me like a little bit confused, and he ended up folding. And then I ended up.
It would have been great if somebody called you with a worse 3, though. That would have been the nuts story.
That would have been great.
Oh yeah, that would have been nuts. Yeah, the other guy folded a flush, so it worked out.
The guy who said straight?
The table psychology.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, the one folded a straight, the other guy folded a flush.
Oh, he did fold a flush.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay.
Okay, so this last hand is...
this is a big story of the week right here.
Big story of last night, I guess. So I have Jack 8, 4, 5 double suited in the small blind.
Okay. Beauty.
You know, can make 2 straight flushes.
The old Jack 8s, 4, 5, yeah.
Yeah, so it limps around to me, so I just complete in the small blind.
Okay.
To 5. Now the big blind raises to 25, and everybody calls, so I have to call. You know, can make 2
Got
straight.
no choice.
Can make 2 straight flushes. So the flop is 6 of clubs, 9 of hearts, 3 of hearts. The pot is 150, and I'm under the gun or in the small blind, so I check. It checks around.
So you flop a straight draw and a jack high flush draw, right?
Jack high flush draw, backdoor flush draw. So the turn is the 8 of clubs.
So now it's 9, 6, 3, 8. Yeah.
And I have 2 flush draws.
Yeah.
So I check again. I mean, I can't really bet into 5 people or whatever.
Right.
And it checks around again. The river is the 7 of clubs.
So you make the bottom end of the straight flush.
Yeah. 6 of clubs, 8 of clubs, and 7 of clubs on the board.
You have
I
4
have 4
or
5
5
clubs.
Okay.
So this is where I think I might have, made a bit of a mistake, and I decided to check to trap into the other 6 people, and it snap checks around to the last guy, and he leads out for pot. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like, I'm praying he has the nut flush, and I repot to like 520 or something, and I have about 8. I have like 840. So I repot to 840, and then he looks at his cards and repots all in, and I'm like, well, if this is a bad beat, I'm free rolling.
Yeah.
So I snap call.
Well, you're expecting to be losing, but
yeah.
You're happy if you are.
Yeah, exactly. So I snap call, and he rolls over the 9, 10 of clubs.
He has the top.
Everybody celebrates.
Yeah. Well, not really, because So we got the bad beat jackpot. The jackpot was like 5,200 total or something. 50.
Your share was half.
Yeah. So I got what is it? I got 55. I got like 2,700, but I lost 840 in the hand.
So you went about 2,000 on the bad beat.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you had just led the river, you would have saved 300 or something like that, right?
You lead. He raised.
Well, no. Either way, we're getting all in, and he has me covered. Like he's
no, but if you lead and he raises, you're not going to pot. You're not going to re-raise.
Yeah, I would definitely re-raise with the straight flush, because he's going to call with the ace high flush, and this guy wasn't a reg, like he was fairly new.
I'm not sure you should.
Straight flushes don't happen, but
I guess it is.
Yeah, it's not going to come up very often. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
awesome. Bad beat jackpot. I think I hit one ages and ages ago, but it's been forever.
Yeah, the Hold'em one's way bigger.
I hit one at the River Rock, so between the two of us, we both hit the bad beat jackpot at the Vancouver card rooms.
Great Canadian casino, yeah, for sure. Fantastic. That is the Roscoe Report for this week, and that is the show, I believe, for this week.
I can afford to buy my family Christmas.
You may. It's going to be a green Christmas after all.
Yeah, I wanted to ask.
That's the updated poker version of all the sappy Christmas movies you've ever seen.
Exactly.
Our plucky hero wasn't to be able to buy gifts, but he hits a bad beat jackpot.
It's the degenerate Christmas
straight flush with a shitty starting hand.
Yeah, that's right.
So I wanted to ask you guys. It's the 23rd now. Are we going to fit in another show before New Year's? Or I was potentially thinking I could put together a best of the year show.
Yeah, that might be an idea. Terrence, when are you back in lovely Hong Kong?
I don't know. I might never leave. I might just soak up the 31-degree sunshine and never go home. So up to you guys. Whenever you want to do a show, I'll be in my little bungalow eating coconuts and training some Muay Thai. I don't care. As long as the Thai internet company doesn't decide to take Christmas and New Year's off, I think we'll be okay. So
well, the thing
whatever
is,
you all want to do.
The thing is, there's not going to be almost anything go on in the poker world in the next 6 days. So because everybody's doing their Christmas thing, and so maybe
Unless people send emails. If people want to send emails, and maybe we can do a mailbag show. If people want to do a voicemail, but yeah, other than that, I'm down.
Yeah, I think maybe a best of is the way to go here. And then pick it up in January. I think we're going to have Sam Razavi on in the new year, so that might be a little bit of fun too.
Nice.
A lot of pressure on Ross to make it a good show. Then,
yeah,
people got to listen. People.
Yeah, I mean, if people hear this, they should tweet at me with what their favorite interviews or segments of the year were.
Fantastic.
So I can add those. But I have some in mind. I have lots in mind. I mean, yeah. Try and keep it under 3 hours.
Good. Thanks to Mason Malmuth for joining us and being our featured guest this week. Thank you to T for taking time out of your vacation. Thank you to Robin for allowing you to do that.
I have a funny Mike Johnson story before we finish.
I like funny Mike Johnson stories.
I was looking, so I was on Reddit and I was looking through the music threads, and they posted this music blog Pitchfork had posted their top 100 songs of the year. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll send this to Mike because he's the only person I can think of that would appreciate this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey Mike, here's a list of music. And he's like, are you kidding me, Ross? Here's a list of my favorite lists of music.
Like I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, he's like, come on. Here's the list of the best lists of songs for 2015.
Man loves his music.
So I'm stocked up on show thread music or show bumper music now.
Fantastic, and thanks Ross for coming in and doing the production stuff. Thanks to you for listening each week. Really appreciate it. Thanks for if we don't talk to you in 2015 again, if it's just a best of show. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to everybody, and we will then talk to you in the new year. That was great. Ross is doing fist bumps. He was actually doing. You remember? Nobody's going to get this joke, so let's start again.
What?
I'll just start again. He was doing the. You remember Old School when Will Ferrell was doing the. He's going to do one, and he's doing the bongs, whatever. Anyway,
people did used to call me Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank. That's who it is. Yeah. So you were very Frankish.
I was very Frank the Tank. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
He's going to do one. Yeah, when it hits your lips, it's so good. All right.
Thanks for joining us. The 2+2 Pokercast has been presented to you by the PokerStars VIP